Welcome to episode 205 of the Tactical Crouch podcast, the show where we get to the end of the year. The off-season is officially dried up for me, and I don't know what to talk about anymore. So you guys, you know what? You let me know. Let me know what is happening in this episode, because I don't anymore. I really don't.
Who knows? We said that the last time, and we went considerably over. So we will see. We're always never sure when it comes to how long we're, because you're right. Like, there's not a ton to talk about. Obviously, there's some fun signings to mull over and think on, but outside of that, it's good.
Dude, let's get around it. 3 hours about Anamo, right there. 3 hours. Boom. 1 hour each. We'll all three of us have 1 hour each. And you just have your own little soliloquy about it for a full hour. Have fun, that'll be the content. I don't know. Maybe it'll actually be a nice short episode today, as I'm sure all the people that have just heard me say that, and then because you're watching the future, you've gone ahead to take a look at how long this podcast is, and you're like, oh, you just said short, and this thing's like 3.5 hours long. That is kind of funny. I do get it. That's basically what happened last time. So,
yeah, we'll see. Maybe it's short. Maybe it's just a quick little ditty, and two and we're out of here. Oh, dare I say one? Oh, how scandalous!
For sure.
See,
I mean,
Yiska's so out of ideas. I mean, we're like 2 minutes in. He's like, "Damn,
no.
Really are.
I just received a DM that might help me create content for my day job, because, like,
nice.
while like a content drought, like, is pretty bad, I guess, for the viewer. Imagine if you were a beat reporter like that has to cover this game, and now, rightfully so, it's to sort of deviate, like, spread out, and like find alternative ways to entertain oneself during the work.
Beat reporter,
as in, like,
reporter,
just like mainly focusing on Overwatch League, I guess. Even though that's no longer true. I mean, I've done CS events now. I'm definitely getting into Valorant stuff now. I mean,
rub shoulders with Astralis and all that.
Yeah. No, like
Navi. Done all those things.
I mean, I got half a year each year to sort of focus on that, right? Like, it's like almost like reckless to not do that. So, yeah. I mean, it is. I got to be honest. Like, it is pretty frustrating to just see, like, what everyone else is getting under the Christmas tree in terms of, like, we have a full schedule here, and like, we're building new offices here, and there's like a very vibrant, like, third-party tournament organizer scene that are in competition with each other, and they're constantly innovating the same game, and for some reason, because we have innovators in the space, like, the game stays fresh, and it's like, man, the grass is always so much greener. I can't imagine.
I just think, like, a shorter off-season fixes a lot of problems. Just straight off the bat. Like, if I was to do one thing, Genie gets to grant me a wish. I mean, the first thing you wish for is, like, Overwatch 2 comes out yesterday. But if failing that, if that's off the list, that's next to the you can't wish for more wishes, that, and you can't ask for Overwatch 2 quicker, though those are the two things you're not allowed to wish for. Then, yeah, I guess, like, a much shorter off season. And we all saw what VCT and Valorant Tour, Champions Tour released in terms of their schedule for next year. And they have, what, a 2-month break, essentially? 2-ish month break. Yeah. And I looked at that, I was like, dude, I would love to only have a 2-month break. Because a 6-month one is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm bored. I'm really bored.
At no point was 6 months ever. I cannot imagine that was ever optimal. Like, you can make excuses as much as you want that we had the World Cup, doesn't matter as much. I think, like, that's not the same audience that you're appealing to. You're also not really significantly dragging anyone into the Overwatch League by doing so. Granted, it's a little better. Then you sized it down eventually, like, removed the tournaments because they weren't as big of a success as you probably thought they would be. But you're breaking habits of viewers, right? Like, now I'm not organizing my weekend like I would be for football matches with my friends. Like, I'm I'm doing other stuff, I can look elsewhere that serves our interests as a group and fosters those habits. You know how, like, once you've established a habit, you know how much shit you can get away with. Like, you know how much group inertia there is just like sitting on a mediocre product just because it has been there for a long time. Like, that's baseball's business model for the last couple of decades, right? Like, just getting people used to it, having them fall in love with like shitty, cheap hot dogs, and like just showing up. Just be there, bro.
They are nice, I will say. Shitty, cheap hot dogs and cheap beer really can't go wrong.
Just show up. Just show up. Foster that habit. But like, you're having me like have varying habits from like starting out on Thursdays or on Fridays to varying length of podcast days to varying, like if I'm just following one team, to varying days when that might happen. Yes, that's also the case, for instance, in European football. Not to the same degree where it might be ranging from Thursday to Sunday when my team's playing, or maybe not playing at all that week, right? Like,
I mean, I would love it if right now we had a third-party tournament for Overwatch League, where, I mean, not mandatory for any team to join, but, you know, maybe you had a handful of teams, you played a small tournament, and fuck it, it's on Overwatch 1 and it's 6v6. Yeah, I know everybody's just built the team for 5v5, but there are plenty of teams that can field full 6-man rosters and cover every single role, and it'd be fun. It would be fun to see the new teams play in a 6v6 environment. And you know what? It doesn't even matter. Like, it's got zero implication for next year anyway. Like, you can't even look at this and you're not leaking any strategies or doing anything because A, the next season's far enough away, and B, we're playing a brand new game. So like, who cares? Like, just if you play a 6v6 tournament now or 6v6 event now, it's got zero impact on next year anyway. So it's not, to me, it's not a big deal. You know, so that'd be cool. I mean, we were supposed to have third party. Like, if you go back to the original marketing slides of the Overwatch League back in 2017, 2018 or whatever, you know, there were meant to be third party events happening in the Overwatch League off seasons. And I feel like that's almost never happened outside of Shanghai Dragons and NetEase hosting their own tournaments. Steel Series did that one earlier this year. Props to them. I mean, what else has there been? That's to my knowledge, has pretty much been it. LA Valiant hosted a Winter Cup, actually. Was it Valiant or Gladiators? One of them. One of the LA teams, I think it was Valiant, hosted a cup.
Valiant, Mayhem's done some tournament work, but yeah.
That being said, Mayhem has primarily done tier 2 stuff, and don't get me wrong, you know, it's great that they've done some brilliant tier 2 stuff, and you know, actually Mayhem's one of the better ones that have actually, you know, popped in the extra effort for tier 2. But you know, right now, man, fuck it, I would love it if someone put on an Overwatch League event, even if it's not Overwatch League related, if it's total third party only. But yeah.
That's the thing. It needs a certain oomph to it. Like, sorry, like the size of these team-hosted tournaments simply never had the prestige or weight to it that made me really care about them, right? And Next Cup might do that, just like getting actually like some of the best players on the server and competing against one another, like having novel content in terms of like matching people up that have never played each other, for instance, or like, you know, like. This would be really sweet content. Like even something like Gauntlet, that type of content right now. That's the type of stuff that would get me to watch. Everything else is
by
like.
The way,
this would be the
we used to have. Here was our Overwatch League calendar in 2019. Overwatch League starts. When did it start? Was it February? 2019? I can't remember. It starts in, I'll look it up. It's in, so we start game number 1, 2019. And then beyond that, we had Gauntlet into World Cup. January 10th, mid-Feb 2019. Is that, what is that,
14
Eric? Is it?
Would be
what's January 10th? Is that
season start? Guessing that's season 1. Season 1 started in January 10th.
So we started on Valentine's. You know, we started on Feb 14th. It's kind of nuts. Like, we started later every single season. So we started Feb and we ended whenever World Cup ended, which I think was November. So I mean, that's a reasonable calendar. And Kay, you'll argue, you'll say like, oh well, you know, World Cup and Gauntlet had nothing to do with the Overwatch League. I mean, the VCT calendar. VCT calendar has a bunch of stuff at the end that's got nothing to do with the VCT either, but it's on there, part of the competitive calendar, just like Gauntlet and World Cup was. And if we start in early to mid Feb, because Feb is a shorter month, and then we end in November with the World Cup, that's a pretty decent calendar. And with that, and then you take December off, you take January off, and then half of Feb. At most, we're talking 3 months, because you're taking part of November off as well. So you're talking like 3 months tops as an off season. And even then, it was like, oh man, great to have Al back. That was getting boring.
Yep.
Now we got double that. We've double that amount of off seasons. Like, holy shit. Wow.
Yeah. No, it's I don't know. I feel like that it never felt like though that we had that potential to go like so ham. I don't know, to me anyway, like for instance, if I was to directly compare the sheer potential, like Valorant is pretty comparable to like what they're doing right now, like to pre-Overwatch League situations, right? I think we weren't as far. We just weren't, right? Like
pre-Overwatch League?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like the right of only year one of Valorant was what I would consider anything close to pre-Overwatch League. And even then, those Ignition Series tournaments, those are very heavily Riot mandated as well. Like Riot had a lot of play in that. They had a lot of fingers in that in terms of their decision making that went on. So here's the fun fact about Riot that everyone seems to forget is like everyone's like, oh man, like they had this whole thing where it's like, yeah, we're gonna take esports slowly and we'll do it if people want it. It's like, motherfucker, you guys are not taking this shit slow. You had plans from day one. Don't lie.
Yeah.
You don't lie to anyone. I see through that. Like everyone sees through that. Don't bullshit us. Like that's just marketing talk. Anyone who believe that, like you're gullible as fuck. If you believe the PR speak, then like I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, it's like I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I think Riot have been way more hands on with their esport from day one. And if anything, Overwatch had a way more free third-party environment. It's 2017 was a bit of an issue. I'm not gonna lie. 2017 Overwatch was really dry because that was the year where like Blizzard's like, you know what? Just gotta kill all third-party stuff until the Overwatch League starts. It's like, huh? Why? Still got one full year. You still got a full year before that happens, and now I remember NA was bare. NA was sad.
Yeah.
Korea had Apex. Hey, Pacific had OPC, which is where I got to cut my teeth. So thank God for that. Like Taiwan, Japan, Taiwan. I said Taiwan twice. Thailand was the country I want to say next. And even Australian team got to play in a pretty sick ass tournament in Taipei. I think Take TV eventually had something, but both Europe and NA were just really sad back then.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, it's more like they're still using third-party organizers, though, right? Like they're not hosting all of these events by themselves. And there is some stuff in between the VCT events. They're not tied into the cycle as much, but they're still relevant to a decent amount.
Mm-hmm.
And I was more talking about like towards like, I guess the developmental like position that Valorant is way further along. It's also like very probably true, like just like in terms of viewership as well. But if we're comparing the positions that this thing is in, I strongly think that they will eventually franchise. They're currently in the onset period of franchising. Might happen as early as like 2023. Like this next year, VCT is going ham, probably bigger than it was this year. While by comparison, look at 2017 for Overwatch. Like if it wasn't for Apex, that would have sucked, right? And
yeah,
I don't know.
Year 2 Overwatch esports was kind of bad outside of Apex.
No.
People that only look with rose-tinted glasses remember Apex were like, oh man, what do you mean? Like esports, Overwatch esports was so good. It's like, yeah, it was good in Korea.
Yeah.
Tell me where else it was good. Name the next place was good. You factually speaking, you would have to say the Pacific region. Then factually speaking, after that, it was nowhere. Sorry, China had OWPS as well. My bad, I forgot about them. They actually had the 3 Asian regions in Korea, China, and Pacific had full six-figure dollar tournaments, whatever, big time stuff, and 4 leagues going on very early on. In fact, well, if you want to pull back the clock enough and you want to really examine it behind the curtains, you'll even notice that the OPC format was the trial run for the eventual Overwatch League format because it was 4 stages. That's right. I casted 4 stages of an Overwatch tournament in 2017, 4 round robins of 10 teams. You can imagine what that was like. It was both fun but also grueling. But I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of games to cast. When you cast that many games, it's a lot of good practice. That's besides the point, though. What I'm trying to get at is that at the end of the day, kind of coming back to what we were originally talking about, is yeah, I want to see more third-party stuff. I want to see some real third-party stuff. That was even a conversation that I can't remember where it was brought up, but somewhere it was said, and we even speculated that maybe in the off-season there was going to be the introduction of more third-party stuff, and Blizzard were going to try and reconnect with the third-party bridges they had burned. Right? You guys remember that conversation?
Yeah.
That conversation happened somewhere internally.
Somewhere
it was reported somewhere.
Yeah.
I can't remember who reported it or where it was, but I do specifically remember hearing it.
Dude,
and great job to you, whoever reported that. But
where
is that? Where is that right now?
There was a lot of talk also, like maybe Faceit was getting into like rank S type of gameplay again. That would have been good content for streamers, pro streamers. Sure. I think like all of that was shut down. We just like we're clamped up, and like by comparison, it's almost like comical how much quicker you can move if you just have like third party like help out and like give them.
But can I throw a bone? This is my guys. I'm about to play Devil's Advocate. Oh, my favorite role to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really good at playing Devil's Advocate because I have internal debates with myself every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, here's the problem I can see is as much as I want third-party events to be on, I think the whole Overwatch 2 thing has so heavily devalued Overwatch 1 that, like, if you're a third party, do you even want to come in?
At this point,
If you think about it.
No. At this point, like
Probably
it's
not.
Yeah, no. If anything, we messed it up before, right? Like by not making it open.
You had a stage. You had a stage where if Blizzard wanted to, they could have been full hands off, and ESL or whoever the fuck Faceit who would have come in, and they would have taken the reins, and they would have done their circuits, and they would have fully done that. Blizzard would not have to pay them a cent. ESL would just do it, because they want to, because it's valuable to them. Whereas now, I think if that conversation was to be had, I think a third party, organizer would be like, well, you got to pay us to do tournament now. Right? And that would be ridiculous. And you can imagine people would be like, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to pay you to do a tournament for us. But third parties, if you look from the third parties' POVs, why would they want to do a tournament? It would have to be valuable. They would have to justify it through viewership, sponsors,
I mean, at this point,
all that kind of stuff through their own revenue streams. Because it's a cost. Whoever puts up an event, that's a cost.
Yep.
And whoever, you have to justify the cost by having some sort of return. And 2016, 2017 Overwatch release, 100%, plenty of interest, lots of viewership, lots of engagement in terms of teams and players coming in and people engaging with the tournament. You do it now in 2021, I probably wouldn't be there. I mean, it'd be fun, it'd be cool, but that spark is gone. So what it comes back down to again is, man, it's the long, hard wait for Overwatch 2, because you can't even do content for Overwatch 1 anymore, because whoever does that would have to do it at a loss, and Overwatch 1 has been heavily devalued because of it. Is the way it is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I had a Twitter thread on that very topic this week, and Stalosa, for instance, came in with a pretty good argument saying, like, I mean, like, yes, that's a problem, more or less saying, like, what actually drives the issue is that we're not getting content, therefore, like, it's really hard to bring in casual player bases, therefore, like, basically, and that is true, like, you can look at fostering or trying to get people that are by their demographic build-up have more willingness to spend per capita. You still kind of need the masses in order to have this work at the moment, right? Like everything is built on volume still in esports, right? Like, it feels like we really try to bring that spending up by selecting for people that were willing to spend. Maybe we got a couple of more of those in, but we lost the masses, and therefore, like, everything that's third party now is basically fucked, right? Like, so basically, like, for instance, think of what other esports are able to do, or what kind of content is able to be facilitated, because as the overall audience increases, every little fraction of a scene increases as well. And it's not like things just like work gradually. Like, if I'm a League of Legends like guy that is really into fantasy, maybe I can make a career or like make a living out of having a YouTube channel talking about fantasy and talking about like statistics and whatnot. You absolutely cannot do that in Overwatch. Inherently already like decreasing the quality of the content that you can necessarily, like, it's not gradual, right? There are hard points in a scene size where you completely change the system of how the scene works and how people are setting up their life around the economy of that entire situation, right? And we unfortunately like capped it off trying to be smart about like who we are attracting to us. And I have no doubt, like, for instance, that Overwatch probably succeeded in bringing fans in that would have otherwise not been too interested in esports. I think I frequently probably underestimate like how many sports fans came in just like because of the localization, and they're now here. At the same time, like, was that the biggest growth factor, or do we see like that everyone else outside is like just like growing with the demographic growing that are watching and like getting them in as early as possible and just like being overall just like huge and like a phenomena? I don't know, like, treat yourself to the reception of a Chinese team winning Worlds of, in League of Legends, and what that does to university dorms in China, right? Like, just become that thing, and then as you age, your esport necessarily, as these people get into a position of higher recreational budget, like, have that increase, right? And it always felt very weird, like putting the cart before the horse type of thing, where we probably could have done with a couple of years more open circuits. Then again, we're here. What can we do? Can only hope for another like huge numbers push. And as Tylosa pointed out, like, overall, like the marketing strategy for esports should be to just like become another thing that an Overwatch casual might do, because the game is still pretty big, right? Like, if you look at the general audience, like the main subreddit, yes, the active users are down, but the interaction is still pretty high. I'm frequently like super surprised how much interaction there still is and how big that subreddit still is. But yeah, generally speaking, man, is it depressing when looking at our competitive Overwatch at the moment, and there's like sometimes you have no new threats for 24 hours because we have nothing to talk about, man.
I got a couple. I don't know if Joe wanted to step in first, otherwise it's just going to be the Yiska AVRL show for a second. But
not really. I think the only thing I'd kind of briefly touch on is the idea about, you know, Overwatch, at least in its first season, I think was very tailored towards, like Yiska said, not your average esports fan. And I think they were successful in that. I think we can maybe ask questions as to why you might want to do that. I think the initial shot from the hip is, you know, esports fans in general don't tend to buy anything. Monetization when it comes to esports fandom is always been a question. But when you look at where we are now with Valorant and even going into League of Legends, yeah, there's very obvious that's very obviously not the case, or it's either not the case or the numbers are being spun in a way that makes it feel like it's not. When you look at like the Valorant skins being sold and that prize pool being added, when you look at, you know, Dota 2, the content that's around that, you know, the content that's around TI and, you know, activating that kind of player base. It was interesting, but I think that's a vision that isn't necessarily paying off at this point.
My add-on is that I have a few more thoughts, but I'm going to do this in order. My add-on is that I think esports and gaming in general, just all gaming, and actually you can extend this to just social media and entertainment, but we'll talk about only gaming and esports for now because that's what's relevant. Is that it's all about riding the wave, right? And if you get off the wave or you let the wave consume you and you fumble and you, I don't know, you crash in the wave, you're done. But if you ride the wave properly and you're building off the momentum and you're just keeping that, you know, keeping the train going, keeping whatever thing moving along, you're going to be fine. As far as interest in your IP goes, you know, your game, your esport, whatever, your IP in general.
Sure.
And so, yeah, I mean, that's the ultimate thing at the end of the day is if you have, you know, most games usually have some sort of initial, you know, boom, here's your opening and here's, you know, the release is good, and then maybe it dies down a bit, and then if you've really got a lot of good things going for your game, you'll actually have interest go up over time. Most like I think single player games, most games that don't have good post-release content always will die down over time, whereas like multiplayer games, especially free-to-play games and live service games, interest usually goes up over time. And so Overwatch is always in that kind of weird space where it's a bit of both, because it's a boxed game that you have to buy. You have to go to the GameStop and you have to buy it, or I guess if you're PC and you're on Battle.net, you can just buy it up digitally, but you know, it's a console game at the end of the day, right? But then it is still a live service game. And yes, if on 100% is a live service game, I don't want to hear anyone say it's not. Shut up. It absolutely is. Like, come on. Don't be dumb. Look at the game. It really is. Okay. And so it's got both. It's got a bit of both. So really what needs to be happening is the interest should be going up over time, but interest in Overwatch is not, obviously, and now we're kind of on the wait. But well, it was a good chat, guys. Thanks for tuning into episode 205, and we'll see you all next. Before we get into so as we get into 205 proper, obviously we've got to give a big shout out to our patrons. So episode 205 is brought to you by Battle Crab, Refine Bean, Bronzebot Boohow, Chare, Prophet Picasso, Chris R34444, Kasha67, Lolshin, Porkchop Sammy, Rexane, Volamels, Smooth Nuts, and Your Misery. So you actually brought up something really interesting, Yiska, about the Reddits, and I was like having a bit of a think about that. And I don't know if you know this, but if you compare statistics on the Reddits now, taking into account obviously Overwatch has been a game that's been released a lot longer at this stage. Depends on what you think a lot is. I mean, several years longer, 2016 versus 2020, so what, 4 years? But both the competitive and the base subreddits for Overwatch kind of blow out the Valorant equivalents. So for example, Comp Overwatch, 277,000 members. Comp Valorant, 140k. Regular Overwatch subreddit, 3.7 million. Regular Valorant Reddit, 1.2. So we're talking about, you know, kind of triple the size, to be honest with you. Maybe not so much on the competitive side. The competitive is a bit slightly close. It's more like double. But triple on the casual side. I mean, let's be clear, Overwatch is a more casual game. This is even taking account the 4-year difference. I mean, we'll see over 4 years. I mean, the Overwatch Reddits have stopped really growing, to be honest with you, whereas the Valorant Reddits might still be growing. And maybe somebody out there has a chart. Somebody's got a graph showing what the growth rate is like. So we'll see if Valorant catches up one day and overtakes or not. But what I'm basically saying is, like, if you use that as any sort of metric for just the size of the Reddits, Overwatch has still got a lot of people in there. And this is, so maybe the total members is not the most important part, because, you know, there's all sorts of factors in there. People argue this thing or that thing, including age and other things. But here's the other thing that's quite interesting. If you actually look around at how many active members are on those subreddits at any given time, it's pretty comparable. Right now that I'm looking at it, okay, Comp Overwatch only has like 622 and Comp Valorant has 1.1, but to be fair, it's I would say it's probably making a lot of sense, being that they just finished up champions.
Right.
They got stuff going on. We finished Overwatch League ages ago and we got nothing. I think when we were in our season and we were at our grand finals, and even beyond that, when we had lots of roster moves happening, we were doing similar numbers. We were doing, we had 2K people, 3K people, all sorts of very similar numbers online. So we had very comparable numbers, basically what I'm saying. And even the basic Reddits, the normal Reddits as well, the normie Reddits, for the blue pillars out there, is you got like 2K people for Overwatch and 3.1 for Valorant. Yeah, it's a difference of like 1K in there, but it's all for a game that is like dead in terms of content versus a game that gets a lot of new content. I mean, still pretty comparable. That's all I'm saying. It's actually not that far behind. It's not even behind on, depending on what day it is. It's not behind at all. It's actually ahead.
Yeah.
Not all doom and gloom. Definitely in dire straits, but not too terrible out there.
Yeah, it's and now of course, like, we're probably also not comparing the current feeling about these in the most fair situations. Like, they just had the biggest tournament ever. We just had zero news for like the longest time, right? Like, I guess like that's where we justify our emotions towards that situation. But yeah, it is. I already told the guys before the show, like, it's really like, how does Valorant basically, how are they able to tell you like where you will be on like August 21st at 14:35 and what you will be eating at the venue, and we don't have the game we're playing, bro? Like, the direct comparison is just like emotionally devastating, man. Like, at the moment,
bizarre.
And it's also like this is also a thing that I think is a little bit undervalued in terms of general perception. But I feel like streamers and like community perception are like, whoever is talking about your game a lot is actually priming your community in the perception of the game, right? And
100%. Yep.
Like, I mean, there's a trickling down effect of that emotion that is happening. And I'm not talking or hearing of anyone that has anything good to say or is like in a good mindset right now. Like, every pro player is like,
You can't.
It's bubbling
You're
up.
not allowed
like,
to be. You're not allowed to be. If you, I mean, I had this chat with people who actively make content for Overwatch, and it's just like, yeah, the only type of content that will get you hits and get you views is negative content about Overwatch.
Yes.
Positive ones won't, because people, it's such a shock to the system. People's like, oh my god, it's clearly a lie. Like, this there can't be a positive video about Overwatch. That's got to be bullshit. That's got to be fake news.
Yeah.
Whereas you got to feed the echo chamber of the bad news. I don't know what it is. It's all public perception. It's just like this kind of public narrative that you have to follow. Like, everyone has to kind of toe the line of the public narrative. And based on how the content and viewership game hustle works, you have to do the thing that people want to see. But that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you do that thing where you do the negative content, and then that is the perception that everyone has, and then they expect you to do more of that, and everyone else has to follow that. You know what I mean? Like, that becomes very self-fulfilling at the end of the day. But all it takes is like, and I'm sure, I'm going to make this sound really easy, and it's not, but I'm going to make it sound really easy by saying Overwatch 2 comes out, or maybe it doesn't even come out. Maybe the beta comes out. It's actually okay. Let's just say that. Even though I think it'll be more fun, I cannot wait. This is what I expect to happen. I bet that even if the beta is reasonable, the most intelligent thing to do as a content creator would be to shit on it anyway, just for viewership.
I mean, I think that content
initially
usually does well.
Yeah.
Just generally, but I think that still opens up. Like, if the beta comes out and it's actually like pretty all right, all things considered, I think there's still a lot of room, and I think there's still a lot of ears for positivity.
Like people, yeah, well, I would like that. I would like oh, well, finally we get our hands on it, kind of thing, and like, yeah, it's actually okay. It's actually good, or at least you should be neutral about it and be like, oh, maybe it'll be okay, or like, I'll just wait for a little bit longer. We'll wait for the full release, and hopefully it'll be decent. And then the actual game comes out, and hopefully it's really fun, and then will be like lots of positive content. You just need an actual thing to come out, because all the negativity starts to pile on when nothing's happening. That's when you let things like that fester, because you can't fight. Because usually what happens is the developer of these games or whatever type of media you're doing, you can combat that negativity by just releasing new shit. Be like, oh, you think our game is shit? Well, here's my shut the fuck up button, and boom, just release a new piece of content.
Yeah.
What do you think now? You know,
Yeah.
ideally it's actually good, and then if it's actually good, then naysayers got nothing to talk about. You know, they do have to shut the fuck up because it's actually good, which is ideally your response. But when you haven't had content for I don't know how long now, it does get a bit ridiculous. But that aside, I mean, I was gonna have a big rant about Reddit actually. It's one of my favorite things to do. As all Redditors know, of course, I do enjoy a big rant about Reddit. It's not what you think. You know, I'm baiting into thinking I'm gonna be out here like here we go. AVRL got triggered by a Reddit comment again. Yep, happens all the time. No, it's actually not that. What I'm really triggered by this time is again. Well, I say again. I haven't really talked about this ever before. The management of the r/Overwatch Reddit in and of itself. It is probably the worst managed subreddit in all of gaming. That is of a reasonable size. So we're not going to talk about games I don't even know about. Someone's going to say like, "Oh,
what about
XY
Paladins?
game is blah 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 blah." I'm like, "Well, I don't. Okay, your game.
Sure.
Show me a Reddit with multiple millions of people in it that's as poorly managed as this." Anyway, what I'm trying to get to is, we all know how bad it is. I think everyone knows how bad it is. The thing that really set me off the rails the other day was when I went to r/Valorant, so the plebby Valorant Reddit that the normies go to. They actually have this thing in there, and actually, what set me off was I looked through the content. First and foremost, I scrolled through just to take a look at what it was. First thing I noticed, one is banners and media supporting champions and the finals and the entire champions, you know, Berlin finals event, blah, blah, blah. Cool stuff. I don't know if the r/Overwatch subreddit has ever done that for the Overwatch League. I can't remember if they have. I think we get a match thread at best that has no upvotes and 0 comments in it. So that's first and foremost. Second thing I noticed is I went through, and I'm going through it right now. And even right now, there's a reasonable amount of discussion-based content about people asking like, hey, what do you think about this? You think this is good? Is this a good gun? Well, how does this agent work on this map? Hey, can anyone give me some tips about how to get out of silver? Like just stuff like that. Just really pedestrian stuff like that. Things you will never see on r/Overwatch because there's zero discussion to be had whatsoever. And then I was thinking like, well, is it the case of Valorant players being more willing to talk about the game? Or is it the case where it's a better managed subreddit? And I ended on the latter point because what I discovered was I went through the rules of the subreddit, and lo and behold, one of the rules is, I'm trying to find it right now. Rule number 6, no low effort posts or vague titles. I think this is the one I'm getting towards. Okay. So they have a specific rule in their subreddit. I'll read this out right now. Okay, there's a specific rule called video restrictions. Videos that are focused on gameplay will be allowed to be directly linked on Wednesdays and Saturdays, provided they are 15 seconds minimum. As for specifics, will be using the GMT time zone. Okay, don't care about time zones as much. All the day's videos that are focused on gameplay are not allowed to be directly linked externally or uploaded unless they're related to an esports event, spelled with a capital S, shame on you, esports event are informational content or are accompanied by a text post with over 1,000 characters. Esports events are defined as any event listed in the Wikipedia list of Valorant tournaments, provided that is a classification that is, and it gives you all the different classifications. These clips must be over 15 seconds in length. Essentially what that means is you do not get the barrage and onslaught and absolute
highlights.
Visual diarrhea of r/Overwatch on any given day of the week, where you see the same 4K Diva bomb for the fucking 10,000th time in quick play. I'm like, motherfuckers, how you've seen this 10,000 times? How many more times are you gonna? This is not new. This is not new. How many more times do you want to see this? This is the same bullshit you've watched for 5 fucking years. The same bullshit. What is wrong with you? I have grey matter leaking out of my ears right now. It's fucking bad.
Can I bring devil's advocate in this and ask you, like, what is bad about it if people are still up? Isn't Reddit an attention democracy? I'm upvoting, therefore like.
But here's the thing: democracies don't work. As we all know, they don't work. Because people are corrupt, and the corrupt people I'm talking about here are the moderators of r/Overwatch.
It's those upvote lobbyers.
It's not just that. Like
no,
but
no, let me. Okay, let's go down that road. Yiska. Let's go down that road a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I want to buy. You put the hook and line and sinker out there, and I'm a fucking buy. I'm a fucking buy it right now. And what I'll say to that is, okay, but like, you're just gonna let the plebs do whatever they want, like no rules, no restrictions. You're not gonna govern them at all. You're just gonna let them make their own decisions. Is this like a total free society? Is Reddit gonna be the total free society where people are just gonna be fully left their own devices? Because you need rules, right? You need some rules. You would agree with that. You would agree with the base concept of there needs to be rules.
Yeah, of course.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because there are rules on r/Overwatch. The general ones are all there. Clear titles. No not safe for work content. No personal attacks. Yada 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 yada.
Right.
But in terms of having a community that actually fosters discussion and fosters like high quality content, if you go through I say any, like most subreddits out there have a rule that limits low quality content, because otherwise what you do get is, this is like children, Yiska. You don't have any kids. None of us have any kids, but we've all been kids at some stage, I think. I was born in a test tube, and I looked like this from day one. And what I'm saying is, like, you let the kids get out there and they just want to eat candy all day. They're going to have McDonald's every day, right? They're just going to have 10 chocolate bars of food, and that's all they're going to eat. So, unfortunately, as much as the democracy language sounds nice, I mean, you can't just let the plebs do what they want. You do have to manage the children out there on Reddit. And basically what that means is, like, if you allow like a Reddit like r/Overwatch to go rampant with the same bullshit clips that I say no one cares about, but apparently these people do. To be honest with you, the funny thing about that is all the people that actually want to talk about things have been kind of pushed out of that Reddit because they realize how bad it is.
Yeah.
So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way where, like, okay, you'll make the argument is like, well, shouldn't like we let people do the content they want? But I mean, in a way, that sounds good in theory, but what you're going to end up with is way too much low quality content, because it's content that is too easy. It's extremely easy to digest, extremely easy to put up, takes no effort, and it's easy to upvote. And it's not high quality content. It's not engaging content.
That was always my main point about the problem with Reddit, because let's think about how you interact with content, right? Let's take articles. Okay, so I see an article, like maybe new, and it pops up and the title is enticing. I click on it, and then I read an article that probably takes between 8 and 12 minutes to finish if it's a long written feature, right? And I might even think, that's a dope-ass article. What are the chances of me going back to the thread and hitting upvote against the chances of consuming a 15-second GIF on Reddit itself and hitting upvote? There's the evolutionary pressure that is on the article to be so good, it practically has to hand out blowjobs in order to be better than the GIFs, right? Like how are you going to ever create an article that is so much better to consume for the average user that they remember to go back and upload? And the only way to do this is to evoke the emotion of pissing them off, right? Like, they either have to be like
rage clicks,
annoyed by the content in itself and disagree with the writer and tell them they're a moron, or they have to agree and have their bias reconfirmed so much, like you can't have them think. It's impossible to make them think, because as soon as someone goes like, that's actually a really interesting point, let me reconsider that while I go for a walk, you lost them. You're now no longer, like, you could have enhanced their life, because they read your article, they're now going to have 10% more happiness in their life. They're not going to hit upvote, bro. It's not fit, right? That system is fucked.
Yeah,
because you are like a gourmet chef trying to sell good, proper food to children who would rather just eat candy all day.
Yep.
That's legitimately it. You have high quality, well crafted things you want to put out there, but kids want to eat candy. That's what you're dealing with.
I would agree on nearly every point. I think this has been an evergreen attack vector for Overwatch, especially when it comes to esports, is the division of the Reddits and how mismanaged the main subreddit is. 100% agree with you there. When we compare it to something like Valorant, is there something maybe inherently with the two games that is more competitively focused when it comes to Valorant, where Overwatch, and as we progress into Overwatch 2, is a lot more casual, skin-based, and maybe even PvE focused than we're giving it credit for?
Joe, I agree with that to an extent. I think that's why that plus the 4 extra years that Overwatch has been out,
of course,
is why Overwatch is like 3 times as many subscribers to their main subreddit as Valorant does, right? And don't get me wrong, plenty of they're still on Wednesdays and Saturdays. I don't visit that often, but you still see plenty of stupid clips on r/Valorant as well, because again,
people want it.
In amongst the filet mignons, and there's a couple of fucking candy bars, a couple of fucking Kit Kats, right? Nothing against Kit Kat. I don't know why I threw a brand in there. I'm sorry, but that's just I actually enjoy Kit Kats a lot.
Check that sponsorship off.
Just any if you're really chaotic evil, you eat Kit Kats like full vertical. Do you know what I mean? You just bite it off. Like you don't pull off the individual pieces. You just eat the whole thing and chew on it. That's chaotic evil. Speaking of chaotic evil, the r/Overwatch mods don't have rules for low effort content. I mean, they pretend to. I mean, let's have a look. Let's have a read it. Low effort. Where is it? I'll find this. But essentially, what low quality content is what they call it. Low quality. Quality guidelines. Yeah, go on.
Why you're looking for that? I swear, like I had that battle. People can go back. Like I had that battle with them. I think starting 2015, and like maybe how we approached that was very bad shepherding. I always said that was an issue because there was then a radical crowd of Knights of New who aggressively downvoted all esports content coming their way. It was actually silly, bro. Like you would post esports content, you would tag it accurately. I'm still not convinced it wasn't bots, bro. Like that shit was downvoted. Like
I mean, I will still never get over how incendiary, and I'm being incendiary now, but I feel like I'm more justified about it. I'm being incendiary because I've been fucking burned. Or at least I feel like I've been fucking burned, and now I got a fucking flame. I'm ready to roast some motherfuckers with my flamethrower because I don't care anymore. So I'm, I've seen r/Overwatch and their incendiariness towards, is that a word? Towards esports and combative content, and I'm fucking dropping napalm. Like I don't give a fuck anymore. You want to see burn? I'm gonna fucking show you burn. So what I'm saying is like it's crazy. It is wild how like heavily against esports they were. Like I've never seen a community, a game, I'm not talking about esports, but a game community, just generally speaking, like just hate their own esport that much. It's like it's first, like legitimately the first time I've ever seen that in any game. It's crazy to me. And they all have this kind of weird, almost anti-vax level of conspiracy theory in their brain, like, oh, esports is ruining the game. It's like, is it? Like, what the fuck do you know? Are you a developer? They're like just making up shit in their brains. It like legitimately reminds me of anti-vax, just people making shit up in their brains, right? Like it's just people that like just like they latched onto some fake narrative, and then like that became the reality for them. And don't even try and tell them otherwise, and they'll try and burn you for it. Like don't tell them otherwise. You're gonna fucking downvote, right? That's how they treated esports. They treated esports like it was the fucking vaccine, and these are people like just like no, it's hurting me. It's my body. It's that kind of bullshit. I just compared r/Overwatch regulars to anti-vaxxers. I told you I was bringing the napalm. I told you what's happening. I brought the napalm. That's what I'm doing. I'm sick of it, and it set me off because I looked at Valorant and I was like, man, why can't you just have a good, well managed subreddit? And I think the one moment, and I hadn't thought about this Reddit for a while because when I do, I want to pull my hair out.
Mhm.
And I remember way back in the day, I can't remember what year it was, can't remember when it was, but there was a specific concerted effort to put all low quality clips, which is 99.9% of the clips on there, into a specific mega thread.
Yeah.
That was what it was. And I was like, thank God. Holy shit, the Reddit saved. It saved. We're actually going to have a usable Reddit for once. And then they, for whatever reason, after that experiment ended, decided not to go with that, decided not to use that.
Yeah.
I think that was the divergence in the timelines. Because I'm in some multiverse shit right now. I look at that specific time and place, and I'm like, on one hand, you turn left at the intersection, you have a thriving subreddit, thriving with an asterisk because obviously it can only be as popular as your game is, but hey, at least people are talking about stuff. Where people talk about stuff. And on the other hand, you have the same 4 or 5k diva bomb from Quick Play that everyone's seen for the nth time. And it's just like, wow, really, this is the level we're at. This is what we're looking at again. This is literally, I just scrolled through, there's literally a Grav Dragon clip, and they're like, wow, holy shit, never seen a Grav Dragon before, am I right? Interesting content you have there.
Yeah.
It's not even content. Like, you can't even call it's like spam. It's like you
Yeah,
watch
it
Ready
is.
Player One, and the antagonist in there just wants to fill the MMO with as much spam advertising as possible. That's what r/Overwatch is. Except everyone is the bad guy. Everyone on there is the bad guy. And like, but the Sauron of bad people are the mods on there. They're like the actual like Dark Lords. They're in that fucking dark tower with the fucking eye looking down at everyone else. That's what they are. Yeah, it's just all sorts of awful. And the reason why I'm so up in arms about the Reddit is because, like, believe it or not, I hate to give power to them, and it hurts every fiber of my soul to say this, what I'm about to say next, but like, having communities like this is actually important to your game, because I look at other successful gaming communities and, say what you will about r/League of Legends, and I know they've had their own issues.
Sure.
And their mods, like, they've probably gone too far in the other directions where their mods like Power Trip, and their mods
For sure.
their mods are so hardcore. Like r/Overwatch mods, for how evil I make them out to be, they're more lazy than anything else. Because I think being evil and like being bad takes effort, right?
Yeah.
And these people don't have any effort. So actually, I'm wrong. They're not actually bad. They're just super fucking lazy. They don't want to do anything. They're like the most hands off. They're like it's actually the truth, because these are the bad parents who just let their kids eat candy. Oh, you want to post the same diva clip 10 million times?
Yeah.
Okay, little Johnny. Okay, little Timmy.
Yeah.
Have your 11th chocolate bar for the day. I guess you don't need to eat any real food. These are the fucking lazy parents.
Yeah. Well, the League of Legends mods are the narcissistic parents that just like
yeah
are way overbearing.
Those are the tiger parents. Those are the tiger parents that are fucking breathing down the necks of everybody. It's like, you didn't capitalize the first letter of your title or something stupid like that. But hey, at least they care about their Reddit. At least they care about the community. And it's taken me a long time to get to this point. I'm sorry, but the end point of this is like turning into a Samito level rant. The end point of this is that, and don't get me wrong, I think he's a passionate guy. We follow each other on Twitter. I like him. He's a passionate guy, and I'm showing a lot of passion right now. That's why I'm talking about this. You look at r/League of Legends, popular game, parentheses well managed Reddit. It's, in my opinion, it's reasonably well managed. Even if you look past the heavily overbearing part of the mods part of it, they talk about everything. They actually have a shitload of discussion. And every now, I'm not saying you can't have any gameplay clips. Sometimes they do have gameplay clips, and it is interesting, and I will engage in that, because I do play a little bit of League of Legends. But they actually talk about the esport. They have huge match threads with thousands of comments in each match thread, post match threads, everything, comments about off-season trades. It's like, and this is all content that is not like relegated to some other Reddit, a subreddit, like an extra subreddit for like the hardcore competitive people. It's like, no, it's just one big community where they talk about everything. And you know what that does is it means your quote unquote casual people on there get exposed to the esport a lot more, and they get engaged in that because they see everyone else being engaged, right? And it's about this kind of social acceptance and this kind of, thing there where you see something that is heavily socially accepted and heavily, upvoted and talked about, you want to be part of that if you're not.
Yeah.
You know, you might be a casual, you don't know much about esports, but you see it so popular on the, and you visit Reddit and you see it's like a popular thing to talk about on the Reddit, you might be interested now. Whereas those kind of things are just completely missing when you separate the Reddits in general. And I still look back and think that was one of the dumbest things ever. I even look back and I remember when Monty, bless him, tried to prevent the split and tried to merge the two and tried to have the base subreddit be, you know, more of what I'm talking about, more of what I think the majority of people who actually want quote unquote good content wanted to be about. I remember when Monty tried that, they just fucking, you know, they just butchered him for it. Like, oh, fucking esports guy. And you know, at the end of the day, you know, I say bless him because it is Monty, and you know, Monty will respond to that kind of thing with you know, he's gonna get fired up, and that probably doesn't help in that kind of negotiation. Because you're dealing with, you are literally, I've used this children analogy so many times, but you literally are dealing with children. I'm talking about either people that are like actually that young, or like mentally they are that young. They're just mentally immature. So yeah, that's what you're dealing with.
Yep. What are we gonna do? Overwatch is the Overwatch sub, and it's not even just like we speak from like a competitive bias, but you know, I quickly sifted through it, and it's like, where's the art? I saw a couple posts. Where's the cosplay? Where's like all the things that the fandom like? Yeah. Where are all the things that are like significant metrics to like how popular this thing is, and like the overall zeitgeist of gaming? It's just not there. And there's obviously reasons for it. One of them, which like, you know, the overall morale of Overwatch is down across the board, but it really never was. I frequented it. I tried to post content on there, especially esports related stuff early on. And like AVRL saying, and you know, something that Yiska definitely can attest to, it was just flooded with, you know, very readily accessible junk food content, which is fine in moderation, but we need some, you know, there needed to be moderation to begin with, and it seemed like there wasn't. I think that stymies a lot more than just the competitive bias that we're kind of vocalizing.
Initially, like I wrote, like I discussed with the mods heavily in DMs, just trying to find solutions, but like they just thought like, our overwhelmingly doing well content, like what the people want is this, and what you want to tell me is something else that also takes more effort to install. So why would we cut what the people wants in favor of, you know, what others want to do with it just because it's a business or whatever, right? And I mean,
people want lots of things. People in life want lots of things. I mean, if that was the justification, governments can just shut down. It just fucking delete all governments today. People can just do what they want then. People want to do this. People want to do that. Like, fuck, it's just such a bullshit justification. And look, I'll play the devil's advocate role in there as well. Like, I can see their perspective as well. But at the same time, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, is it not?
Yeah.
Because you're only driving out the people that want other things. Because at the end of the day, the problem with fighting against low effort content, the junk content that Joe's talking about, is very hard to fight against that, because that shit is super easy to upload. If you allow that, if every subreddit that currently has a no low quality content, no low effort post rule, that was removed, every fucking subreddit would be full to the brim with the lowest fucking quality content possible, because that shit gets easy upvotes. That is a legitimate truth, blanket truth across all the Reddit. And
there's a reason why, you know, stories on Snapchat are successful. Like, it's these quick edible pieces of, you know, you get the punchline and you move on to the next one, and you can't
fight against it. Yeah, you can't fight against it. And the people like Yiska is talking about, like, if you put up a well written article, or like a good video piece of content, super informative, right? You wouldn't get any traction, because it takes people 15 minutes to get through that, or they can just watch a 5-second clip of Diva getting the fucking whatever K bomb again, you know, and it's just the same bullshit you've seen 20 million times that for some reason people don't get sick of. But like, you can't use a justification. It's like, oh, it gets the upvotes, so it's good. It's like, well, dumb shit gets the upvotes. Do you want good quality? I think people, you know, this is a question I'd be asking them was, do you understand the difference between high quality content and low quality content? would you? Because if you can, then you would have to agree that the low effort content first and foremost gets a lot more upvotes and is a lot easier to upvote. Is that what you want the community to be? You can say like, well, that's the people want, but it's like, yeah, but like, people want bad things. People are dumb. Kids want to just eat chocolate.
Yeah.
Is that what you're going to allow that to happen?
Yeah. That's the problem with everything at the moment. Like, let's be honest. Like, journalism has a terrible feedback loop at the moment, right? Like, as Avril described, if you're doing negative content, that's getting the numbers, but you're also like seriously impacting how people are conceiving of reality, practically speaking, right? So on the one side, you have something that like income needs to be earned somehow, but nobody's able to or willing to pay for quality content. Like it necessarily has to turn into a whale-driven economy, because like whoever gives you the money in order to sustain your craft will therefore determine the direction. Or you go for the volume with Google AdSense and try to write for the masses, and that in itself also has problems because you're now writing rage-baity clicks or nothing of any depth whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
So it is. I mean, it's far beyond just like Overwatch, for sure.
Oh yeah.
But in that, like, it's perfect. Like, if you want to understand what the media crisis is about, like, this is a perfect example that we also witnessed in Overwatch. And fortunately, though, I would say Reddit isn't as important as it once was. It's still not unimportant for sure. Like, I had a piece written. It was called "Don't Marry the Meta," and "Don't Marry the Meta" was about like envious recruiting Mickey and me thinking he's very one-dimensional as a player. Which didn't turn out too wrong, and honestly, like, in the end, him being on the team for as long probably was sort of like contributing towards that team sucking for a long time. But like the basic premise being like, if you marry into that position and you're signing these long contracts, blah 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 blah, bro, that content still to this day is probably the most read feature piece I've ever had, simply because it was front page Reddit. It had 6-digit clicks. You're not getting that in Overwatch with featured written content anymore. It's impossible unless you get into that position on Reddit. Nobody will care to that degree anymore, right? And yeah, it is all the way down from there. Like, I don't know. For instance, I remember like getting my first podcast. We still have initial podcast episodes from a podcast that was way worse, and like and those episodes have like 5K views, like something we can expect on a really good episode now, even though it was a shit one, but it hit front page because nothing was happening at the time there on our Overwatch, right? It's like, it's still a driver of discussion and also algorithmic power. Let's be honest. Like, even if you get your video down there, it's not going to be all Reddit traffic, but it's going to algorithmically help you get into trending positions on YouTube itself, and therefore it then snowballs. And once you have one video snowball, that might just make your channel, because now you have a algorithmic trajectory. And yes, Reddit traffic probably doesn't weigh as much as other content sources, but like, that might make your channel. There's something called viewer velocity, right? Very often you will see a pattern where one video of a creator blows up, and then every other video is going to be suggested. And if it's similar content quality, then or type of content, then people will just watch that and just like be dragged along for that. And absolutely, Reddit in that can make or break careers, and has done so for many Overwatch creators in the past who are more casual. It no longer does, right? Like, even the guys that I used to follow, like Hame or whatever, like that did more casual Overwatch content, it all dried up. Also because these types of viewer velocity interactions simply don't happen from those content sources anymore, and it's a shame. And it just like, it's just low effort stuff. Like, you could have had like a reasonably well-adjusted restaurant. Like, I don't know, like, why you gotta be a McDonald's when you could have been, you know, I don't know what the comparative thing would be. Is Olive Garden like slightly higher in quality?
Yeah, for the most part, it's not
Or,
fast
like,
food, but
Red
I
Lobster
think
or whatever?
I don't think that's too far off of Olive Garden. I mean, comment, you know, down below.
I
Help us
don't know
algorithmically.
anything. I would
don't know
be
anything,
going
so.
to Moredo, like for us in Germany. Like, why would,
I'm lost
Sure.
right now.
Yeah.
my point being, like, you wouldn't have to like be the fine cuisine of like only facilitating the most well-chosen esports highbrow content. Like, nobody is asking for that. What we're asking is like a diversity of content where you can have the shit content alongside the good content. By the way, this is also down to Reddit's algorithm itself that is shit. Like, theoretically, algorithmically, you could favor like articles by like saying, okay, maybe if someone actually comes back to the article and hits upvote, that's a 5x in weight to video content. Maybe they're doing that. Maybe it's even worse than I'm thinking. But yeah, like, we wanted everything to flourish there, not that fucking low effort garbage that is now the norm. And I understand that incentive structure is also like, if I put myself into the position of a Reddit moderator where I'm like, well, no, actually, I will facilitate that content. Will make my unpaid job way harder on me. Will also have the majority of the subreddit be pissy at me. Will receive possibly death threats because of that.
Don't be a mod.
Or
Don't be a mod then.
yeah. I mean, yes,
Let
but
somebody else take it.
and I will also say, this is something that the gaming companies of those games should be considering. Like, you know what your game is going to be called before the guys that are saving the subreddit do beforehand, right? Like, Riot Games saved the name Valorant and then gave it to a moderation team.
Yeah.
You should have an active role in the landscape of how your social media is going to be built. And Reddit in that should have been like, you should be in control of your subreddit. And then if it goes off the rails, if you know you're going to launch a like franchise league with millions and millions of dollars, maybe I put someone else on the moderation team. Maybe I'm even paying someone to get a healthy conversions in. Because let's be like, make no mistake, if you had one paid moderator on the overall subreddit that facilitates esports content getting to the front page, even your own YouTube channel, that guy would have made his investment back tenfold by this point, right? Like, no questions asked, that would have been the case. Instead, they were hands off in cases, I don't know, like, big companies are like just so inflexible about this, right? Like, I guess Riot is capable of, but they're so far and so high up the ivory tower that they never considered doing that or didn't care enough, because after all, they're still a casual company. But like, long story short, this is something that Blizzard could have helped with, but chose not to do. And now we have the separation. We're sitting in here. I'm not sure if Overwatch 2 is a second chance to get in there. Maybe you can even approach them and go like, I don't think anything will change.
I think it'll only get worse.
I want it to be the change. Like, this is exactly what I was talking about. They're just lazy. Like, look, maybe I went a bit far saying like, oh, they're fucking bad and evil and those kind of stuff. I'm angry. I'm just pissed off. But like, the point is like, yeah, you can still just be bad by being lazy. You can just let something burn. It's like, well, shit's on fire. Should I get a fire extinguisher? Or like, maybe that'd be too much.
Deal with it.
Maybe that, you know, that would require me to fucking move my legs and then use my arms to pick it up and then do the fucking motion. I could just sit here and let it burn. You know, that's easy for me to do. That's the moderators in r/Overwatch. So, that's what I said, man. You're like, yeah, you talk to one of the mods, they're like, yeah, but you know, that would be more work. He was like, yeah, because you're fucking lazy is why you were saying that. I think get the fuck out. Give it to somebody that will do the work. Give it to someone else that cares.
The thing is, I think it's actually worse. I'm pretty sure some of the moderators were invited to World Cup before and stuff like that. So they had communication.
I think so.
Then again, like, okay, I don't want to like get into Hell's Kitchen with like just saying things that I vaguely remember and probably misrepresent too much. So if you're a moderator of our Overwatch and feel like called out in the wrong way because my memory is hazy on that. But yeah, it feels like that was something like that.
Let's talk to this guy.
Yeah.
You're like treading on thin ice. You're like being real careful about it. I'm just like I said, I got the fucking B250 bomber out here. I'm fucking dropping bombs without giving a fuck right now. You're like, oh, I'm really sorry. Like if I misremembered, no, I'm just that I got nukes prepped. I don't give a fuck anymore. These motherfuckers have ruined this community for 5 years. Like they have zero sympathy from me. I don't care what they think either. So the point is like, unfortunately, as this really pains me to say once again, so it's every fiber of my body to say, but it's one of the few places that, like, Reddit at all is one of the few places where you can join a gaming community to have discussions with an asterisk, because you can't have discussions on /Overwatch because people don't upvote that kind of stuff. It's sad because, like, if you are a new person, let's say you're a new person right now, maybe you picked up Overwatch recently, God bless you, and you're like, oh, why don't I go check out /Overwatch, and then you'll find 0 people talking about the game. And before anyone says, oh, that's because there's no content, motherfucker, there's been 5 years of people posting the same clips. There was content on release this game, and that shit had not changed. So please don't come at me with that there's no content right now. Even when there was content, even when the game was fresh, people didn't fucking talk about the game properly, okay? So don't bring that to the table. So, yeah, I mean, we get to the point where, like, with Overwatch 2, I mean, if nothing changes, that's just another barren graveyard once again. It'll get another boost of attraction. People will post their now 5K Diva Bombs because you can't get a 6K anymore. And 5K Diva Bomb quick play, Overwatch 2 edition, and then, easy 10,000 upvotes. So, something's got to be done. And I agree. I don't know. Like, can you like evict them? Can you just get these mods out? I don't know what to do. I don't know what the thing to do is. I don't know who's got the power. I don't know who's got the capability. I'm an angry guy yelling at a bar right now. Okay, and the bartender is like, as long as he's paying for drinks. But I'm getting a lot of shit off my chest. Is what it is. I'm mad about it. I'm legitimately mad about it. It's got me pressed. And anyone that cares about the game should have you pressed too. Yeah, because it's a kick in the balls. Go to r/League of Legends right now, then go to r/Overwatch, or do it in whatever order you want to. Compare the two and tell me it's not fucking sad. Say it to me straight. It is the saddest fucking thing you can see in a gaming community. It really is disgusting. What a fucking cesspit. r/Overwatchers, can't believe it. Cool. I don't know if I have more to say on that. I think I've laid everything out. And
I think it says it in the title, to be honest. I think when you Google the League of Legends subreddit, the title of the subreddit right now, not in like the URL, but like the actual title is League of Arcane. Shows how much, obviously there's a lot of negativity and a lot of warranted negativity when it comes to the League of Legends moderations team. But they're plugged in. Give them that much.
Yeah. Imagine having threads with thousands of comments and 10,000 upvotes. Couldn't be our community. Couldn't be us. So, yeah. I won't pretend, and to be fair as well, yes, it doesn't help that our game doesn't have content. It does not help.
Of course, yeah.
But
very true,
and just to sort of finish up on the whole self-fulfilling prophecy thing I was talking about earlier, it's like if the subreddit is just full of bullshit, then the people that actually want to talk about the things I want to talk about move on and they move away. And they go to r/Cow, they go to r/Overwatch University, where they go to whatever other subreddit that actually people will actually talk about stuff. And for anyone saying like, well, good, isn't that like a good thing? Then people can go where they want to and talk about where they want to. And the people that want to post bullshit and just post bullshit, isn't that a good thing? Well, it's just like, you can have that view on that, or maybe let me place this seed of an idea into your brain, which is that what if we didn't have to do that? What if it could all just exist on r/Overwatch, and that could just be the central Reddit where everyone does everything and we could all talk about things? Again, using r/League of Legends as the example. Not a perfect subreddit, not perfect, but holy fuck, it does look like heaven right now compared to what we have. So I'll take that. Like, why should we have to have multiple different subreddits for different things like that? Why is it that people had to be evicted out of r/Overwatch for just wanting to be talking about normal things? And when I say normal things, I mean just like interesting discussions, an actual discussion where you can actually talk about things. It's just, it shouldn't be called r/Overwatch. It should be called r/Overwatch bad clips, like low skill clips. It should be called r/incredibly bad Overwatch clips. It's like, name the subreddit what it's actually there. Like, that's my message to the mods as well. It's like, yeah, we're going to give the people what they want. Okay, cool. Why don't you create your own subreddit that's called r/bad Overwatch clips, and that can be your subreddit, and don't taint the main one with like, what you have now.
Yeah, I think the argument also has to be that it is not just about selecting what the type of person who likes that content. It is also growing an appetite for certain types of content in the already existing fan base. It's not like we're like, okay, like you go to the left side if you like clips, and you go to the right side if you don't. Like, you can bring the horse towards the water and say, like, look at this clip from the Overwatch League. That's kind of sick,
everything,
right? Like, you
we can have the pro clips,
foster the appetite for that type of content and engage people and help them find like dope stuff. If they don't like it, you don't like it, whatever, right? But we don't even have the offering for them in order to get there. They will never see that, even though they might.
Yeah.
Like, think about that actually. Like, the additional enjoyment of a deeper experience that you're robbing from that audience that they otherwise would be exposed to if they actually saw that content in their news feeds.
Yep. It's just 3.7. I see that number, 3.7 million, and it brings a tear to my eye. It's just sad to look at, because there's 3.7 million subs who, of which 3.68 whatever thousand of them, 3.6 something million of them, like, they clearly don't regularly visit, because you only get, I don't know what the trend is. I'm not going to try and throw it on. It's got 2,000 people actively on it as of me saying it right now. On a good day, let's imagine it's double or triple that. So maybe 6,000. I don't know. I'm making up a number right now. We'll just pretend it's double, triple. I'll give you even quadruple, 8K. How about I even give you 10 times about 20K? That's still a fucking drop in the bucket compared to 3.7 million, correct?
Yeah. That
means that even on your best day, you are getting like a marginal fraction of 3.7 million people, which says to me, the stat that it says to me is like, maybe most people don't actually care about watching the same clip for the millionth time. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe like, it's just so many people that we haven't reached. It's just so many people that we don't have engaging with Overwatch, or better yet, Overwatch esports in the Overwatch League, or anything even esports related, or even competitive. Forget even esports, or competitive related, like just ranked. It's just, if we just upgraded clips from quick play to ranked, that would fucking improve the experience by like 10 times already just on its own. But that we're not even fostering that kind of content. So you're dead on the money there, Yiska, when you're talking about like people don't even get exposed to what quote unquote good content even looks like, because all they see is the same garbage. You know?
Yeah.
They don't even know that I feel at stake is out there. They're fucking still on the fucking 20th chocolate bar they've had for the 20th day in a row.
Yeah. No, it's all about exposure, and I think that's that's the problem. It's such invisible harm theoretically that's being done to people, right? Like, and let's be honest, the Overwatch League is about the only novel content that has been consistently produced over the last 2 years. That, like, as a content offering in terms of Overwatch, and like also seeing like the pros play or what is possible, like how like even the meta diversity now, like everything would have been probably pretty enticing to even like casuals in terms of like just a novelty, and then seeing also the product improve. And I don't know, like I think like the offering in terms of what content Overwatch League brought is generally probably the best stuff we've gotten in the last 2 years in terms of Overwatch, right? So
it's literally the only thing we got. So yeah, best and only. But definitely, it's been. And I've been proud of the Overwatch League content. We've did some really good content this year. But like, I mean, and people might look at this and this entire. I don't even know how long we've gone for now. So this is definitely a 3-hour episode now. Was about to be so Joe, like maybe only 1 question. But yeah, no, I'm kidding. That's for a little bit later on. So people might look at what I'm saying here over this entire rant and be like, oh yeah, AVRL's trying to be divisive here. Like, he's trying to throw the casuals under the bus, and he's trying to be, he's trying to like be superior or some bullshit. You're gonna put a label on me now, okay? What I'm actually trying to do, if you read between the lines, and you don't have to because I'm about to just tell you to your face, what I'm actually trying to do is bring it all together. I'm actually trying to reunite it all. Do you know what I mean? Like you're saying, like it should all be able to coexist. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to introduce everybody into everybody else so that we can all coexist together happily. Because I hate this thing that goes back to 2016, 2017, where there was such hatred from the casual community towards the esport of the likes of which I've never fucking seen, and that left such a sour taste in my mouth. And yeah, okay, I'll be straight about it, and I'll admit where I'll admit that I'm being really vindictive about it, because like that experience was so aggressively bad from my POV. Like I foster like such negative feelings of the casual community from that, and it doesn't apply to all of them. So I'm not going to put everyone on the same bus and the same blanket here. But the point is like I would actually like to bring it all together and have it all unite so that we can have something closer to our social League of Legends where people can talk about all sorts of things, esports, whatever other discussions, random BS, and you can still have clips in there. Maybe every now and then you can get a BS clip, but hopefully we get better quality clips as well. It's not that I hate clips. People might come out of this like, I've just hate clips. I don't think they're great, but I tolerate them, and I think that's okay. I'll watch a clip every now and then if it's decent, and maybe maybe I'm being grandiose and I have some specific taste about what clips I like or not, maybe. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just trying to foster something more positive and something that will bring about like greater awareness to the overall Overwatch product and franchise and esport and everything combined together, rather than having everything so split and the main Reddit having so many people yet such little care and such bullshit generally in terms of content.
Yeah, I think
gotta be a reason why there's so many little active users. Yes, obviously you have to address the caveat that there's no content right now, but when there isn't any kind of substance, then I can't imagine people would want to come back and tune in, right? It's just kind of the way shit works.
Yo, this is comical. So our Overwatch still has a flair called esports, but you literally cannot filter by esports on the sidebar. That's the one flair that isn't on the. That's so sad.
Hey, Yiska, why do they have flares at all? They have a flare called highlight. I thought that was the only content that was there. I don't know why they have flares. Isn't all the content just highlights?
Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't aware they had content that wasn't highlights, just for a matter of fact. I wasn't aware of that at all.
Before anybody starts to come for any of these hosts,
please come for me. Please try and come for me. I dare you.
Fair. I won't put words in Avril's mouth. But let's not mince words. None of us are actually using the filters. And if you are, I think you're in the vast majority or minority. I think most people are going, it's whatever hot tab is open initially when you get to Reddit, and you scroll through that front page and you probably click off to go do something else, right? If that doesn't keep your attention, then you're not clicking filter. You're in the minority if you're actually doing that. So that's not a logical, counterpoint to what Avril's saying.
Yeah.
At least not for the vast majority.
Yeah, no.
And if you have any thoughts on that, please respond in the YouTube comments or whatever comments.
Please do.
In the Spotify comment. No, they don't have any Spotify comments. I'd be keen to hear your thoughts. Yeah. Be keen to hear your thoughts if you disagree as well. If you'd like to have a debate about it. I feel bad for anyone that wants to have an argument with me. I have mental warfare in my brain every day of the week.
Is it one of those things that you like sit on the toilet and you just argue through it like 100 times and you've gone through all the...
I always feel like if someone wants to try and start an argument with me, the first thing is like, man, I feel bad that you really want to try and start an argument with an INTP. This is going to go bad for you. This is really not going to go well for you at all. My specific personality, I have, like I said, mental warfare debates in my own brain nonstop all day, every day. It's passive. I can't stop it. It just goes. It just happens. I engage in so much debate. It hurts. It's painful. Help me. This is a cry for help. This entire
Help, please.
it's a big cry for help. Please help me. I need help. I need professional help. As we're gonna move on now. What time do we spend on that? Okay, an hour and a half. Well, that's all we got time for, folks. Oh God. Do we talk about
Gotta get to some of these signings at
players
least.
now? All right, you guys. All right, start the signings. Anamo to Florida, go.
Oh man, I was really upset when I saw this because because I
Upset
felt
for
like
who? Which side are you upset for?
For myself, because I really wasted a great pick for a player you hate to see do well in the Overwatch League.
True.
That was my first. Let's not be the dick. Not more so than I need to. But man, I don't know. Like that might just be the man with the biggest amount of intangibles that has ever been in the Overwatch League. Because at no point have I thought this guy's a top performer, and somehow he's always like in pretty decent teams, right?
Yeah.
Like
Genuinely.
he must.
And as far as I'm aware, well regarded, right? He's like reasonably well regarded, I think.
Yeah.
Or the players hate him. I actually don't know.
Yeah.
Am I bullshitting? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I mean,
I don't think there's too much on it.
My man's like NUS 2.0 at this point. Like it actually, like he just slipped into those giant shoes and just filled them completely.
Can I hit you with a spontaneous get off the fence before we actually get to the segment? Can you rank these three main supports? Chris, NUS, Anamo.
Chris, Anamo, NUS.
God, you hate him so much.
I've
rolled the same to you.
It's hard, man. I'll just put Anamo first, and then Chris, NUS.
Like
I don't know. I didn't see a huge amount of Chris.
Fair.
Or NUS. I don't know.
Nah, dude.
I'm biased towards Anamo because I follow this guy. I followed this guy like his whole career.
True. Yeah.
NUS is like just like from what I see on the server. Who are you had more contribution towards Shanghai Dragons winning the championship this year than NUS had in season 1 because he was not actually actively negatively impacting the game. Yeah. But hey, dude, oh my god, he basically like NUS should get the Lee Tae-jun award if we think about it.
Now that's a throwback. I don't know that too
many
people
people remember the
award. Yeah,
I don't even know what that award is.
It's the award for like the. So if people remember, Lunatica,
you're gonna have to. Rewrite this.
Right. So in season, was it 3 of Apex when Who Are You was benched?
Yes.
So Lunatica was still clearly one of the best teams in the world, right? Like even Who Are You being like swapped out wasn't going to change that. Jaehong was on some different shit. Miro was just like still one of the top performers there. Zumba was great. Like everyone was just Toby, of course. Like everyone was pretty top tier. To Eska for what he was doing was still pretty decent. And like Lee Tae-jun coming in, dude. Like, I mean, this guy was clearly worse than everyone else on that team, and was like just carried to a title when, like,
did he even play?
Not much. Because if you remember correctly, it was Guido in the
finals.
Guido
not only popped off and got MVP.
Guido and Eska,
Yes, Eska on Soldier and Sombra, and did some weird rotations and shit. But yeah, it was.
I mean, that rotation was.
I don't even remember Lee Tae-jun playing.
Yeah, just the most mediocre Tracer player to ever.
They tried in the beginning so hard. They wanted him to work so badly, dude. It's just like, you're a nice guy, but like. You're really not clicking that well, bro. Like, and by not clicking, I don't mean with the team. Everyone likes you. You're not clicking heads, mate. Like,
you're not clicking the mouse. He's one of those dudes from like 2016, 2016, 27. Oh, I guess well, definitely 2017. Like, he's one of those OG Lunatic guys with like, you guys remember Dean? There's another guy called Dean who was on the team. The history of that team is they all came from, I think it was Sudden Attack 2 or something like that. It was Sudden Strike 2. I can't remember.
Special Forces, I think.
Bro, there's too many. It's one
I
of those
know they're all kind of the same.
It's one of those Korean Counter-Strike clones. So they came
right now.
so like I was about to say Lee J gone. That's not completely the wrong person. So
Yeah.
Lee J Tun, Lee J, fuck, I'm saying Lee J Tun. Yeah. So what the fuck? Say it again. My brain just melted. What's his name again?
Lee Taejun, yes. Because
Lee
now you're
Taejun.
infecting me.
Taejun.
I'm like,
Lee
what's his name?
Taejun. Yeah. So Lee Taejun and Dean and
Yes.
Ri Jae Hong and all those guys came from
Special Forces.
Special.
Special Force 2. Yep.
Sheesh. Yeah, I don't know, dude.
Is that
My man was
okay? It is
carry.
Special Force 2. What a bad name, by the way. What a bad name for a game.
To be fair, like if we
that'd be like if we released a FPS game in the Western world called Shooty Man's 3. Like it's just such a bad name. Like
the thing is, man, Counter-Strike is really not a great name either. Like if you just like if you try to
it's okay.
just
it's not as like
not
it's
great,
not
but
as Special Force 2. Like I don't know. Like
yeah, no, that's definitely like names. But it's interesting to see what is acceptable if you just have marinated in the name long enough. Which just like yeah, you know, it's whatever now.
like if you had a counterterrorism game called Policeman Shooter 5 or something like that, just like okay, what are you guys doing? What are you doing? So yeah, okay. So back to
Anamo.
Back to Nuss.
Milk
Anamo.
Tea. Sure.
Yes,
Them too.
So you compared Nuss to Lee Jae Tun. Lee Taejun.
Yes.
Yeah.
If it helps, just call him Taejun. I think that would maybe deviate away. But yeah, like Anamo's another. He's like the archetypal player who probably has a potential to coach at some point because at this point
Maybe,
it has to be intangibles, right?
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
Since I think season 2, I've been like, this kid's not. It's just not cutting it.
Yeah.
There's always holes. It's not up to snuff when you look at some of like the more mechanically gifted main supports who may also bring some of those intangibles along. Maybe not to the same degree, but yeah,
and it's not better, man. Like everyone's like.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just go to flex supports. Like this game is getting heavily mechanical, like especially in season 1. They're like, you know, I guess like if you like, we just like get one of the worst mechanical players in the league to just like fill that role. It's like, at that point, just bring back Costa. Really, like, I don't know. It's a weird move, but apparently, like he popped off in trials.
Yeah.
Which is one of the worst sentences that foreshadow bad performances in esports history. Like this team already had suffered through with Zephyr. Like, how you make that same mistake again, boy? Like,
I mean, I think we can trust Gunba. I think we can trust that coaching staff. They've never really done us too dirty, but it is. You know, I'll hold reservations.
Dude, if he passed the Gumba vision test, he passes.
Sure. Yeah.
Because like, you know, your individual eye test, you know, someone might pop off on a map or two and your eye test, you might be like, oh, get this guy. This guy popped up. Maybe we should pick him up. Well, the Gumba vision doesn't lie. The Gumba vision, well, you know, it'll beep, boop, beep, boop, it'll spit out, you know, one of those like 80s supercomputers for the entire room, and it prints out this gigantic fax looking thing. That's the Gumba vision right there, and it's got little graphs on it. It's like a size monitor, and it's just like it lists out Anamo and all of its
Anamo
intangibles.
good.
Yeah, it's like a 3 square foot sheet of paper, and it just says Anamo good. That's it. That's the only thing it says.
That's all you need to know.
It's
all synthesized down, compressed.
Print out.
Yeah.
Nah, dude. Like,
but my point is.
The thing is, like, if that machine tells me that Anamo would be a good Ana or Zen, then it's about as reliable software as a Tesla autopilot, bro. Like, at that shit, like, it is practically impossible or unbelievable to me that that would be a good thing if for them. Like, even Bab would be, nah, it might be really rough.
This is the system that found, like, Asuna and Shot Up in Valorant. This is the system that found, like, all the... I don't know, that put Kai and Shax together on the Valorant. Do you know what I mean? Like, it has worked in the past. Like, you gotta give credit where credit's due.
It also tolerated McGravy, though.
Oh, bro, you're being harsh. That's rough. What did McGravy do to
Shame
you?
on you.
Anyway, maybe the only caveat I'll say is I don't know how well it processes information on support players, especially main support players. Because for DPS, it's very basic. Like,
Sure.
how does the shooty man click the head? Yes, boom, pick this guy up, right? For a main support, you have to look at I don't know. I don't even know what you're supposed to look at there. I'm sure Gumba's figured it out, and the rest of us are catching up. But who knows? So I don't even know what popped off in trials means. Like, popped off how?
Yeah.
Did he play Lucio and did he get like lots of fucking environmentals? Like, what is popped off as far as main support trials? Did he fucking whip the pistol, the Mercy Glock out? You know, doing some Yveltal level stuff and just killing people. Like, what did he do? You know, what does that mean? I would get if it was maybe a flex support, and you know, maybe you look at some damage stats, or you look at X or Y other, maybe hits a bunch of sleep darts. It's a lot more readable, a lot more like immediate. But main support feels really invisible in a lot of the things that it does well. So unless you're Lee J God and you're like seriously getting crazy environmentals on Lucios,
Sure.
it's like it's hard for anyone to see what the fuck's going on. So
Sure.
okay, Eric's saying that he was apparently helping protect Majid in a lot of dives in their trials, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So maybe he was peeling quite well. I will say this: I was impressed with Anamo's brig by the end of the season because I cast a lot of Soul games, right?
Oh,
yeah.
And Anamo's brig towards the end of the season like really started to impress me. It was very clutch. His rally uptime was really good, and he would turn around a lot of fights. I mean, you could argue that rally and brig is kind of broken anyway, but all I'm saying is like, for a guy that's usually very invisible as a player on everything he plays, for me to notice anything he does is like a big change of pace. I'm like, whoa, I just noticed Anamo. How the fuck did that happen? How did I notice this guy? This guy's like, for the most part, he's a very invisible player, but I noticed him. That's crazy to me. So, I don't know. I was pleased with what I saw.
Yeah. To be fair, this might just be one of my takes where in season 2 I was like, you know, Fleta is kind of like washed now. And that one aged so badly, mate. That was one. I never publicly said it. If you remember, it was one of my Volamel tweets of where I impersonated you.
To what?
But like,
wash compared to what though? I feel like to be washed, you had to have like some really high peak somewhere.
Yeah,
you know
no.
what I mean?
Like
Or am I
my
wrong?
point was like he was past his peak and he was never going to be the same again. And
I don't even know if
then,
his peak was that high in the first 2 years. I feel like he didn't hit his peak until Shanghai anyway. Like I feel like all the first 2 years of his gameplay was just like it was good, but not
I
didn't
feel
blow
like
your socks off.
I feel like the first half of season 1 was pretty sweet, where everyone was like, okay, this guy might be the best player in the world at the moment. And then yeah, like you sort
for a
of
hot
suffered.
second.
Really?
Yeah, on Widow.
Okay.
I think for a little bit.
Shitting on kids, yeah.
Really?
Wasn't very
I
long.
mean, so was Pine. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe, and Pine was way flashier. I don't know. Like, fucking Linksa was shitting on people as Widowmaker in the first season. Like, come on. Like,
The counter
that
Widow.
wasn't even like. I don't know if that.
Why I
everyone
remember this
just
so
remembers-
vividly is like I had like a like this what's it called this debate show with Sideshow where we like argued. Okay, he said like Ru Jae Hong was going to be like the best player coming into Overwatch League because that was a popular opinion. I would argue probably wasn't even the best player in Apex Season 4 by a long shot. And he came in, sucked. To be fair, I'm not sure if he really had that opinion or if he played that like someone has to take the shit opinion and play the devil's advocate because sometimes there's only one good opinion, but there might be good content in there, right? So, but I remember saying, no, it's going to be Fleta. And then I felt like maybe it wasn't the first half, maybe it was just the first quarter, which is still a pretty big volume, to be fair, at that time. But like, he definitely popped off, and everyone's like, yeah, I guess that makes sense now, seeing that. Also, in contrast to like everyone saying, oh, you might be overhyped, you know, like, yeah, flash logs, but also a reason why it sucked, probably taking way too many resources. Even like after Soul Cup, like he just like is in lunatic high, and that's why it's like super easy for him to succeed. And then of course, like he was the best player for Soul at that time.
Yeah, but Soul was shitting. I mean, who was his partners were like Munchkin and shit, you know,
and Bunny
his
originally.
partners were like Wicked and stuff. Like, come on. Like, he's not competing with much on his own team. You're talking about a mirror that's way past his prime. You're talking about Lee Jae. Oh, not Lee Jae. Why am I doing this? Ru Jae Hong. Why am I using Ru Jae Hong? Lee Jae Hong. Anyway, Ru Jae Hong was still pretty good at the time, but he was starting to go slightly.
When they
It
put
was
him
a
on main
slow
tank.
downhill. I'm not gonna lie, he wasn't jumping off a cliff or anything, but
Yeah.
you know, it was a decline. He was on a decline. Maybe it was only a couple of degrees down, but it was a decline. So I'm not saying Sol. He wasn't really competing. Saying like Flitter is the best player on his team, I feel like doesn't say a lot. When you know, that's like me saying, "Oh yeah, Milan was the best player in Valiant for sure by a mile." But that's not a fair comparison because you know Valiant, so it's not really. But you know what I'm saying. I'm just trying to put an analogy out there. So back to Anamo is like I was actually quite impressed by Anamo's debut in the league on NYXL. I got like benched Arc like straight away. When I came in, because I knew what he was bringing to the table when he joined. Because I casted the guy pre Overwatch League, and he was on the same team as Diya, by the way, and Smurf. By the way, Smurf was actually perma benched on that team. This was the original Ardiant team that played in Pacific. That and Moon was coaching that team too. So Moon was coaching all those guys together. And they played LAN in Taiwan. So, you know, fast forward, he joins the Overwatch League, joins NYXL. I'm like, yeah, this guy's going to be good. I know he's good. Because this guy was like really strong in OPC. To be fair, the competition wasn't really challenging him, so it's not like he's going to get punished. And I'd always heard that he was like a strong shot caller, really smart player. And the reason why I said, like, you know, generally players have good things to say about him, I don't know, maybe when I try and watch and engage with player content, let's say it's NYXL content or otherwise, you know, people always regard, when I say people, it's like the other players, and they always kind of regard him as like the IGL and the kind of brains of a team and kind of like the shot caller in a way. And I guess he's doing that. I believe, based on what Albert said in his tweet, I'm going to have to dig up the tweet so I don't misrepresent what he's saying. But just to paraphrase anyway, I'm not even going to paraphrase. I'm just going to find the tweet because I think that'd just be more accurate.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it seems like it's only natural that, you know, a lot of these intangibles would shine through.
So here it is.
He's been on enough teams.
Needed a stabilizing veteran presence on the team and someone with a complementary hero pool to Majed. Anamo had surprisingly decent English and did a really good job in our trials peeling for Majed. Really pleased with our rebuild this offseason. Can't wait for next season. So, yeah, I mean, it's funny when you said intangibles, because I'm like, that was like the word. If you had to ask me how to describe Anamo in a single word, I think that'd be the number one word.
Yep.
Because it has to be. There's nothing else. It's got to be the intangibles. And main supports, you know, they do, and they're expected to bring. They do. You do expect them to bring a lot of intangibles to the table.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I hold a minor amount of reservation with Anamo and this team as a whole. I think ideally, yeah, you would want, you know, a veteran presence to come in and try to rally these rookies up and really give them, you know, some experience to kind of stand behind. It's that's asking kind of a lot. We'll see.
I'm the only one that doesn't hate this pickup. I mean, I worry about the nature of it being a mixed roster rather than a full Korean roster because he's only played in full Korean rosters.
True.
Besides that, am I the only one that doesn't hate this pickup?
Yes. I mean, I can't, like, I don't know what they needed necessarily. I'm not sure who's out there. Usually, like, I find myself agreeing when I consider the full availability of sensibly doable moves that Mayhem does. Same with Checkmate. I think there was legitimately no better solution for them at that time that they didn't pursue. So I trust that was also reasonable. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess it depends on if you think you necessarily need a main support, or like how many you can even get for that role are allowed to by your budget, or what your budget is, and like at what point in the offseason you had to have these torques. Could you have like taken someone else? do you necessarily need a Korean flex support, a main support that translates or whatever? Like those, when everything like that is taken into consideration, I would probably weigh the importance of those differently. I'm not saying that would be better. That's probably very likely not. But it's like usually there's a rather sound argument made from Florida through their moves.
Well, did Albert say on Platchet that they were looking at Moth but couldn't get him? That's what was said, right?
I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
it
Or am I
seems
wrong?
like there was some reason. I don't think he divulged, but yeah, I guess from my understanding,
They wanted to trial Moth, but it didn't work out. As in, they could not get Moth to trial. Based on
What about
reasons.
FD God?
I could try.
No idea, actually. That's a good one.
Yeah,
I'm taking FD God over Anamo, my friends.
Yeah, but how well does FT God peel for Majed? Huh? Checkmate.
I mean, I know how well FD God clicks heads, though. And I'd be a big believer in that in Overwatch too.
That's true. It's like I also know that Mayhem were going for a very, mechanically strong roster, because I think people would have been surprised by Majed as well. But something that Albert did also say was that he was impressed by the mechanics shown by Majed, and that's something they value. They being the Mayhem organization valuing a lot going to Overwatch 2. But I would not describe Anamo as a mechanically powerful player, at least based on what I've seen.
No.
So that does surprise me a little bit. I'll be honest with you. So I didn't expect that. Yeah, I don't hate the pick. I'm not in love with it because obviously you've there's some other players on the market that like you've named that are pretty good on paper anyway. So I'm not too sure. I think the biggest concern for me is how he's going to work on a mixed roster.
Yeah,
because he just hasn't played in one. I think his entire career has legitimately been Korean only, and for the most part, he has been able to also play out of Korea as well because he's gone from NYXL, where sure NYXL did play in LA, but eventually that was a Korean team. Was he on NYXL when they were fully in Korea? I can't remember. And then on Seoul, he's on Seoul. So yeah, I mean he hasn't had to really delve into any sort of Western roster or Western environment outside of his initial debut.
Mm-hmm.
I'll look forward to seeing what he can do. I think he'll go okay. I think people underrate him heavily. I think he's a super underrated. I think the biggest argument people have against him is like, oh, he doesn't do a lot. But I'm like, yeah, well, that's what intangible players are. They don't look like they do a lot on the outside.
100%. Yeah, if he's again good enough to kind of keep around, which obviously has been the case because of the things that he's doing behind the scenes, then yeah, it's tough to argue. Yeah, I guess we'll just have to ask Albert, like, end of season, like, all right, what's up with Anamo? Like, what are you hearing that we're not seeing?
End of season.
I just don't know that he'll spill the beans mid-season. Ideally, that'd be the case, but drop a line, see what happens.
Right. Maybe privately. Cool. So Anamo, done and dusted there. Let's talk about next play on the list is actually. Did we want to talk about day one at all from Mayhem? I don't really have much to add there. He obviously was on like WGS. I don't know a lot about day one, but I'm sure if Gumber and Co believe in him, then
yep,
I'm happy with that. So yeah, he was on WGS and Team CC. The only thing I'll add is his time on Team CC was at a time when CC was a little bit bad this year, but maybe he was a good coach with a team that was falling apart. I'm not going to pretend I know. So let's move on to the next player signing that we haven't talked about. So Admiral plus London overall. I'll be the first to say I don't actually really know much about Admiral, so I don't know if I have a lot to say on this, but it's a promotion from Hurricane, is it not?
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware. Community sentiment is that I think they like him. I think he's good. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not going to try and pretend. I don't actually know.
To be fair, I hear his name brought up a lot.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like it was very hard to not upgrade for the last backline.
Yeah.
So yeah, I also unfortunately haven't followed European contenders enough in order to have a good opinion here, but yeah, I mean, there
It's
were
your
some,
home region. It's your home region.
yeah.
Yeah, home region, but you know.
What's a
My
home?
excuse is that the time zones. My excuse is like, I just can't watch the time zones bad.
Oh, of course.
But also like I don't even remember the last time I watched Star game, or EU contenders generally speaking. Personally, just
Yeah.
because like, anyway. But yeah. So,
What
that's
I
2 out of
will
3 people.
I will say with Admiral doing some
Save us, Joe. Save us.
research prior in the year or earlier this year, spoke with a couple coaches, when asked who was most likely to get into the Overwatch League, Admiral was very high on the list. So this is somebody who is, you know, caught a lot of coaches' attention, somebody obviously that fits within the London Spitfires kind of core tenets of, you know, kind of fostering, bringing up. Yeah, should be somebody that, you know, again, like as I said, it's kind of hard not to improve. But yeah, should be a sizable improvement for a team that kind of needs one.
Yeah.
Now, we haven't. For one thing, real quick, by the way, I do actually really appreciate when someone like Albert comes out for Mayhem and actually like puts in some additional thoughts or reasoning, like, oh, we picked up this player because X or Y.
Hmm.
Could actually provide some good insight. Actually, you know, I kind of wish
More
London
teams.
did that for,
Yeah.
or yeah, more team. Sorry for specifically pointing out London, but since we are on that topic, yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about Admiral to form a good opinion.
Mhm.
So,
Oh, that's fair.
I kind of have that feeling for most. I don't know. I look at the entire London roster,
Mhm.
and part of me is like, man, I just like most of these players I don't know well enough. I think the main one is Poco. I mean, everyone knows Poco. You know,
Yeah.
he's been in the league since day one. We obviously watched Hardy this season. Shax and Sparker, I believe, are still there on a 2-way. We watched them as well.
Mhm.
That all seems fine. It's the rest. It's the new guys. There's the new players coming into London outside of Poco that I'm not super certain on. Just because I haven't seen them play, I don't really know them at all.
Yeah, I think my biggest question mark. I mean, I can definitely vouch for Provide. I think he's been stellar and has been, you know, deserving skill wise of an Overwatch League slot. My biggest question mark is backbone. This is somebody who, in those same kind of talks with the same coaches, a little bit farther down those lists.
Mhm.
Somebody who, you know, obviously has some potential. I trust both Christopher and Nuki in their eyes for the most part, and
Mhm.
you know, it kind of remains to be seen for me. Gonna have to do a little bit more digging on them in particular, but yeah, that's the big one that I'm like, I don't know. That's a big role to fill, and
Okay.
mm,
I'm gonna I'll go here because I know someone's gonna ask anyway,
mm,
and you know, we get to the point where it's probably worthwhile talking about it, at least in a tiny amount of way. We all know where this is going, and we're not gonna get into a huge debate on the Provide situation because there's actually not a lot to debate on,
yeah,
because I don't think anyone approves
no,
of
not at
his
all.
past and, you know, the racist comments he's made, all that kind of stuff. If you're not caught up to date on what I'm talking about yet, no one approves of that. But I think it's my opinion is that it's not. It's not up to me to decide whether he should or shouldn't be in the league. What I can say is, like, you know, I think that's going to come down to whether the league decides that's a reasonable thing or not, and beyond that, also, if London have clearly already made that decision, I believe that's an okay thing to do or not. And I also am not going to pretend like I know him. I don't know him at all. I've never talked to this guy. I've never engaged with this person. We don't follow each other. I've never even watched him play, so I can't even speak to his personal ability. But I've heard from other people that they say he's a good player. And I'll believe them. But the people I do know is I know Christopher, I know Nuki. Nuki's a big friend of the show. We had her on for episode 200. I've known Nuki since the start of Overwatch. We were both mods in the good old VOW Discord together at one stage before I wasn't really a part of that. And to be fair, that Discord started dying anyway, but that's besides the point. My point is that, look, I'm happy for now to trust Nuki because I know her as a person, know her character. I'm sure you guys do as well.
Yeah,
and she's putting her reputation on the line. London's putting their reputation on the line. Christopher's putting his on the line as well. Like, these are people that there's a list of people that this has to go through for approval before it's not just one person, whoever it is, being like, yeah, let's get Provide on, haha. That doesn't work like that. It's a long list of approvals, and to get certain people on board. And I think London, Nuki, Christopher, and the rest of the staff wouldn't put themselves at this kind of risk unless they believed it was worth it.
Yep.
Now, there's more nuance than that. I mean, it's a very sensitive topic. There's more nuance to that, and I'm not going to try and pretend like I have any, part to play or any sort of opinion or any sort of position there, because it's, I'm not on either side of the party. Like, I'm not in any of the camps. I don't know. Am I saying this properly? Like, I'm not a position where, like, I can say who can or shouldn't be either offended or not offended, or a victim or not a victim, or blah, 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 blah. I'm not saying any of that because I'm removing myself from that situation because I don't have a part to play in it at all, is basically what I'm saying. And absolutely no one should forgive this guy if they don't want to. Like, in your own personal being, no one's asking that you should forgive him, and I don't think it's an automatic forgiveness for him to join either. Maybe that is my opinion, but it's also like, I don't know. I'm willing to personally defer this to the people that actually know him and are putting their reputations on the line for this person.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely impossible for the outside to, like, how do you verify the negative unless you monitor literally 100% of his online output, right? Like, it's impossible to really fact check there, unless you find him guilty of, like, re-engaging into that, right? So far I haven't seen anything. But yeah, like, I don't know where to land in terms of like the forgiveness aspect. I think a lot of people brought up the argument of, is it really that bad to ban someone indefinitely from, like, this one profession and, like, just not have him re-engage there? I don't necessarily know the answer to that. I will say, from my own values, whatever is indefinitive punishments always never vibe with me. Like, they feel very draconic, and I cannot imagine, even, like, in a situation where I'm personally affected by it more, cannot imagine a crime where I would put in indefinitive punishment on it and feel good about it. So yeah, I don't know how to solve that situation. I think there's no good way. And we'll see how it plays out. Unfortunately, like, I think the vector of what he could theoretically do is, like, he could just, like, be very, very actively positive. And the question is, like, how sincere would that be received, or it could not work, right? And I'm also, strictly speaking, by my nature, I'm very risk averse. So if I was the general manager, I probably wouldn't take that chance.
Sure.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So
which is why, like, my entire point and position is, like, I think London could have gone with other people 100%. They've probably been. If you want a flex support, there's probably a number of other flex supports you can take. Which is why, to me, that if they are willing to take this risk, it's
Gotta
like
be
not
good
a
reason.
small decision. It's not a small thing to do, because Provide comes in with I was about to say baggage, but that's like a mega understatement. This guy's got many closets full of skeletons at this stage. It's pretty bad. And the shitstorm you're bringing along with it. So to go to this effort to do that, like, I mean, if you were just looking, it's the justification isn't, oh, he's a good player. It's like, there's lots of good players out there. You can pick and choose, dime a dozen good players, debatably. But it's, if to really go for him, gotta ask yourself, I mean, I know Nuki. She's a smart person. She's not stupid. She knows what he's doing. She knows what she's doing. So it's like, her and the rest of the staff and Christopher and, all the rest, it's like to me, they wouldn't do this unless they felt like it was worth it. Like, that's what I come back to at the end of the day.
Yep. And this isn't the first Overwatch League team to kind of try to put a vouch of confidence in, the change of character for Provide. I mean, you go back to 2020 and, the Valiant attempted to in the league, if memory serves, tried, successfully to, get in the way of that. And yeah, again, not okay things to say or do, or that's not cool in the slightest. Definitely do not support that.
No.
Is this a privileged position that sometimes maybe it is okay to, punish heavily? Yeah, I would say so. But yeah, it's a messy situation, but I trust the people involved. I see enough positive attention towards this that I have to hope that this person has changed for the better. And that's kind of where I sit with it.
I think it's different if I don't know the people involved in London. If it's like, oh man, what the fuck are London doing? But like, I don't know, it's a little bit more, I was gonna say personal. It's not like I'm not any. It's not personal to me at all. But at the same time, it's like, because I know some of the people involved, and it's like, I know they're not stupid people. So you got to put two and two together somewhere. They're taking a huge risk here. Like, why take the huge risk when you could have had another option if it wasn't for reasons? And I think we can end the topic by saying that no one defends what this guy did. It's utterly reprehensible. No one is asking anyone to forgive him either. I think no one's obligated to forgive him, because I mean, it's pretty bad behavior, like really, really bad behavior. So it's something that I think again, I'm gonna let the people who are making the decisions make that decision, and see what happens. I have no idea. I don't even know if he's approved yet by the league yet. Who knows? Anyway, moving forward. I'm sure he's a good player and all that. Again, personally, I've never seen him play, but we'll see what happens when league starts, and if that all ends up being cherry. Cool. Where are we up to now? Was there another player?
Last one.
Finale,
and I
finale
think
for the finale.
Sure, I think it's probably worth mentioning. Yes, Diya did get signed to the LA Valiant. We've talked about it ad nauseum for the last 2 weeks.
Watch any of our previous episodes to learn about Diya and the Valiant. Lest we have another 40-minute discussion on the Valiant.
TLDR, very positive, great, happy to have him here, happy to have him back. Great job, awesome. Go watch the other episodes if you're interested in more in-depth discussion. So finale.
Uprising Academy is where finale comes from. I had heard that Uprising Academy had done pretty well in the last season, but I'd personally also not super kept up with NA either. Look, I'm doing Overwatch League in 2 contenders regions as it is, and then sometimes doing co-streams to China. Like, I feel like I've done enough. Anyone wants to comment to me like, oh, everyone doesn't know about NA or EU contenders? Like, motherfucker, I know about
Overwatch
3 other contenders. And unfortunately, it's like, I got enough on my plate, so I'm allowed a little bit of slack here and not knowing about a couple of different contenders regions here or there. So I didn't super follow UA. I didn't super follow contenders or finales Korea. I never casted him personally. Actually, I'll take a look at his background. I don't think I've ever casted him. Pretty sure I've not. And
I'll see NA stuff.
Yeah, no, I have not. I've never casted this guy before, ever. So
the bit that I know, obviously more of a flex player, definitely more projectile focused. For UA was more the Echo May Reaper off of like a cursory glance over of some of their matches. That DPS trio had a lot of rotation to it, where Finale would get rotated out for Victoria, who would come in for the Tracer hit scan kind of role, and Stellar was kind of the fixture who was like locked in. Again, when talking to some of the contenders casters and coaches, UA was brought up as you know a talent pool to kind of pull from, but and while there were names out of that pool that were definitely looked at, Finale definitely was not one of them.
Mhm.
Now that could be for a number of reasons. It could just be, you know, slip the mind. It is what it is. And again, I didn't speak to a vast majority of everybody, of all the coaches. But it, I think just name recognition alone, if you're looking at that, it definitely doesn't inspire a lot of faith when you look at some of Toronto's initial signings.
Yep.
Yeah, this is concerning to say the least.
Yeah.
It's a very important role coming into, I think, just in the history of Overwatch, and I don't see it removing it. In Overwatch 2.
He is a projectile player, though, correct?
From my understanding, yes. Echo, May, those are kind of the staples, at least recently.
Important for Defiant because they currently have Isu.
Yes.
And the next player on the DPS has to be a flex player. So I guess it does because the thing is, I'll be straight. Like when I hear anything about UA, Uprising Academy, the main thing I hear is like Stellar is probably the guy. Stellar's the guy on the team. Like that's the person you talk about. But Stellar wasn't chosen, and maybe he will still get chosen. We don't know yet. But Finale got on there first, and maybe only Finale gets on there. Maybe Stellar doesn't get chosen. And I have casted Stellar. He was on Talon last season, and we also remember Stellar from Toronto and Boston. Yeah. So Stellar to me was he's a pretty decent player. I don't think Stellar has that great of a projectile pool. Like he's not like a super projectile player. He's
your tracer. He's your hit scan.
He's mainly a hit scan, as far as I remember. And I don't know if that's what Toronto need. Like Toronto needs a projectile. Yeah. So
I mean, he ticks the box without a doubt. But is that where we're at with Toronto? Is we just have to tick boxes? When you look at Twilight, you look at, you know, who's the main support that they again, somebody who I think you've been very you know, in support of. Finale is just like
what else do you get though? Well, actually, there's a big list. You could get someone like Although from O2. Like
sure.
that guy's an absolute monster. You should get Although. Although is such a good player. I guess I don't know. Maybe
he's on another team. Who's to say? I still think there are some. You know, there were free agents on the pool. Again, from the outside looking in, that I was very excited to possibly see Toronto make moves for. And this was not one of them. I think this is a new benchmark for them when you look at how quickly they acted with a Twilight signing, some of the name recognition at the start of their kind of off season, and now we're kind of getting a little lower. There's not a ton of people left or still willing to trial.
Otto's still there. Otto's still there. My guy Otto is still waiting to be picked up. And they got Finale.
It's a little confusing. Maybe there's some more logistical stuff to it. Maybe he had a visa already. I don't know. I'm trying to reach out straws here as to why maybe Finale would
Otto's
be the choice.
been in Washington. Otto's been in Washington.
True. He was in Shanghai in season 1 too. So
if we're talking about like people that have had visas for the US, Otto's tick that box.
Agreed.
Does Although have one? Although was in London, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
So wouldn't he? I don't. The problem with season 3 was riddled with the whole COVID situation. So I don't know if they ended up getting him visa or not, because London ended up going back to Korea, right? But my case point, the other thing you could say is like, my case being like, I don't know if visa was like the be all end all. The other point would be like, well, maybe it's a price thing, but has Toronto run out of money? Have they run out of money? Like
that would be a little weird.
They're throwing bags and like maybe like their budget was X amount. Everyone's got a budget, obviously, that is X amount.
Of course.
And they spent the whole thing on Chorong. It's like, oh shit, we don't have enough money for everyone else now. I mean, that's one interpretation. The other interpretation is actually Toronto have lots of money to spend on players this year or going to next year, and they easily could have spent more money. Because I was going to say maybe Ardo has a bigger buyout, maybe Ortho has a bigger buyout,
Possibly.
but it's like, guys, you picked up Twilight Hot by Chorong Muse. Come on, like you can't.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me about buyouts.
Yeah.
And that's what's concerning to me is like you spent like either the vision of this team is so askewed to the rest of the league that like we're putting our money into positions that are not the premium right now, right? When you look at, Seoul, they came out early with a strong 3 DPS, trio. That's where they're going.
I'll be interested to know who their last DPS. I assume they're getting a third DPS.
I think that's
a team that's spending as much as Toronto is. Surely don't hold back on 7 players. They have the league minimum of 6, but I see this team going 7 or 8.
Yeah,
7 being the real minimum for them. 8 being a maybe we'll see option for later on.
I think
maybe they know the
I think like if anything, they probably don't have the money issue. I think it's just a confidence thing, right?
What do you mean?
Confidence about what?
Confidence in,
like of the player bases that could join them. Like nobody wants to end up in a shitty experience, even if it's a little bit more money, right? If it's a shit team, like based on the results more so than anything, right?
Sorry, who doesn't? You talking about other better options don't want to end up in Toronto? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe that's the issue. I'm not sure. Like the thing is,
not Otto.
I think
Otto's putting out tweets like, "Yo, please give me another chance." Like, if you're a guy with options, you're not putting that tweet out.
Yeah, I mean, fair. I'm not sure if. Yeah, there's a question if Otto is a better choice there. But yeah,
I think so. But I don't know. I haven't seen Finale play. I have seen Otto play.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
Yeah, I don't know. But maybe in the end, it will just be like the backup player that actually doesn't play that much. We wouldn't know at this point, but like, I'm getting slightly concerned that Toronto started with a lot of steam, now not following up. And I'm not sure if they did run out of coal to fire the engine or if they just, like, if
maybe
it's just the end of the track because nobody else wants to get on,
Maybe Finale popped off in trials. There, I said it.
Oh, Scrim God. I would certainly hope so.
Sounds like sacrilege, doesn't it? It sounds like such cursed wording. Popped off in trials.
It's like
was
that.
Four words. The 4 most cursed words in a row in Overwatch.
It's like that in like coachable in season 1. There's always like these buzzwords that we find and we throw around when we just like, yeah, I don't know. Like we like them. He's cheap. I don't know. This is screaming like a bust team at this point.
No one ever says he's cheap. I don't know. I wish teams were honest. I wish teams were honest. I wish teams are honest enough as like, yeah, it's because he was cheap. But you don't do that because that tanks both the player's value and his value on your team for future sales. So you'll never say that. No. It's stupid, but like, hey, I'd appreciate the honesty, but
Yeah. Does this not scream like a bust team though? Like this is a team that again, like Yiska said, started off strong. DPS is at a premium. We're going into a mechanically more difficult game, at least from the outset. I'll save reservations for what this game actually looks like when it comes out. But from everything that we've seen, it looks like DPS is going to be an incredibly important, sector. And you have Hisu and Finale.
Hey, at least Hisu, like, you got some confidence behind you. Like, okay,
yeah,
I can
that's a decent start.
I can see that one.
But
I'm just got a question. Like, a lot of teams are finished now.
Yeah.
And there's 2 really strong flex DPS / projectile players out there on the table in my mind that are like mega good that have not been picked up, and that's Ardo and Although. Although probably being my number 1 pick. As much as I talked about Ardo, Althoug's in my mind the mechanically best player on that list of available flex support FAs. He he's ridiculous. This guy popped the fuck off. Like, he's actually an insane player. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Like, surprised. I mean, O2 obviously got connections. They talk to Overwatch League teams. They sell a lot of players. Surprised this guy didn't get shipped off. I mean, you guys know what Sam's hero pool is on the shock now? Sam, who just joined?
Off the top of my head, no. I think he's projectile tracer.
Yeah, you know.
That's the thing. That's the thing. In my mind, and nothing against Sam, I'm sure like all those Redbird guys are fantastic. But in my mind, if you're gonna pick a bunch of O2 players and you want another flex player, bro, you get Kilo, Proper, and Ortho. Get 3 of them together. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, that would have been dynamite. I'm sure Sam will still do fine, but you know, I'm just surprised that Ortho is still out there in the wild, and maybe he's got a home, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. Most teams are full now. Maybe the guy joins NYXL, because NYXL haven't announced anything. So maybe all these guys eventually join NYXL, but right now I'm not seeing a lot.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep,
Right.
it's pretty dire.
Moving
Let's
on.
go.
We are now... Okay, we're nearly at the 3-hour mark, guys. We can do it. It's 45 minutes more.
How much to talk about, by the way?
You want to get into the fence sitting?
Shall we? Are you ready for the segment?
Alrighty.
All right, here we are. Segment time.
Just real quick. I'd like to talk about flash shops, but no one could watch it, so we're not going to.
True. There you go. Boom. All you need to know.
Zing.
All right. Welcome to the Get Off the Fence segment. It seems like you guys like it. I thought we had a good time. And if, again, still looking for some feedback. So if you're interested in leaving some, I'm in the comments. I'm reading them. Discord users, hello fam. Get out there and drop some feedback on this segment in particular. But to kind of start us all off, Yiska, we're gonna head to you. You know, with Valorant champs kind of wrapping up, I do have to ask. Gonna ask you to get off the fence with this. Are we axing or climaxing on live music performances at esports events?
Bro, it's really hard to get them to be right. Like you have to be like, whoever hires that guy needs to be really in tune with the culture of that particular esport, because like, even like if you have a banger artist for one esport, that might just flop in the other one. Like, I think it can work. I think usually it's probably best left to like DJs. I think that's very often to be like the best choice. And not DJ Khaled, but like, you know, the Zeds or whatever.
Sure.
But then again, it's a hard ask to get like a venue going and also transport that energy to an audience. I don't know. Like I think they would just probably have to start like thinking bigger. Maybe you wouldn't like. Maybe you innovate what the live show aspect is. Maybe you can even do something with the engine that the particular game is running on, and like have like some. It doesn't all need to be live performed, if that makes sense. It's completely fine for the artist to have input in the show, but only to just press play and never show up, right?
So you're more looking at like from a Fortnite perspective.
Maybe a little bit
Push
more
play
like
and don't show up.
No, but what I mean is like it doesn't have to be a live performance. It can't be like, let's say you have a like I'd much rather have like a world song performed, but think outside the confines of a song. Make it like a almost like a musical type of thing, but in an in-game engine or something like this. Maybe it's really cringy. It would have to toy around with it. But I think like we're past like just like straight on stage performances, unless it's like DJ sets.
Okay.
But
So
yeah,
you're saying
it's hard.
You're not climaxing for
No.
live esports
No,
music?
generally
Okay.
speaking, like Axe definitely the old concept of it.
All right. AVRL, to you.
I axe everything except League of Legends Worlds still nails it
Okay.
for the most part.
Yeah.
That's the only esport that I think actual nails music and performances. But I do have the opposite thought of Yiska here, who doesn't like the live performance at all. He wants some in-game stuff. I think I don't like that at all. I'm not about that.
Okay.
Anybody that just shows up and presses play, no, I'm done. You can get that out. I'm not a part of that at all. It's not engaging. I do not like musical performances for anything to do with esports. If it's got nothing to do with the esport, if it's absent and it doesn't relate to the esport, and it's just like a thing that exists, then I'm always like, why is this here? Like, who asked for this? You know, who asked?
Yeah.
DJ Khaled, who asked? Like, who asked for that? Nobody. Or maybe some out of touch people in season 1 who thought that was a good idea. I'm sure they got roasted for that afterwards. I'm sure after that, and they saw the footage and they saw every year you still go back and watch the footage, just have a bit of a laugh. And there's that slow zoom in on the little kid in the cosplay, and he's just like, what the fuck's going on here? And that one little kid just represents everybody, like, you know, at home as well. As like, dude, I feel exactly the same way. My point is, and speaking towards the Valorant champions performance as well, and this is the one part that unfortunately unlucky for Riot, but COVID means no audience. Having just some people, I say some people, these are musical artists, not just some people, it feels like, on some level it just feels like some people, because it's just, you know, you have some musical artists performing to nobody, and okay, and now that's done. It just feels like it exists. It just feels like it's there in a vacuum. It exists, and you can't help but ask the questions like, okay, but why? Who asked for this? Who wanted this? Like, this is kind of no point. At least with League of Legends Worlds, the performance has something to do with the finals, because you're singing the anthem, you're performing the anthem. It was still a little bit weak this year because of the no audience thing, but they tried their best. They had good sets in terms of it being tied to Arcane's. A little bit sellout for Arcane, but, you know, I respect the hustle. Also, why wouldn't you? You're going to cross promote. You know, that's part of the goal. So it worked. But I think for live performances, you got to look back on like 2019, anywhere between 2014 to 2019 League of Legends Worlds, the music performances for the most part kind of nailed it, but especially 2018, 2019, 2017 as well. 2017 was when they had the big AR dragon and the Beijing bird, the bird's nest. That was fucking sick. They were singing Legend That Would Die, and then they had all the performers come out, and the players eventually come out.
It felt integrated.
18 is when they had the KDA stuff, and they were doing more AR stuff, and they had the players on these huge platforms moving across during the anthem as well, during Rise, which is such a sick song as well. They had Phoenix in 2019, all the players in that stage in Paris, I believe, and the performance around it. Like, if it's tied to the esport, and it makes sense for the esport, and it makes me care about and invest more in the competition side of it, that's when it's good. If it's got nothing to do with the competition, it's 100% an axe. Like, what the fuck why? No one wants to see this. Maybe some people do, but most people don't. Most people are just sitting there like, start the game. It's like, casters start the game. You know, that's the vibe you get when you're watching those musical artists. It's like, bro, when are we getting the video game? What are we watching this for?
What is this for? Yeah. I get it. Yiska, any quick final thoughts?
Yeah, it's mostly cringe. Like, it's not worth trying to hit almost that, unless you have a really good clue. And like, even Riot failed sometimes, honestly. Like, some of the stuff just wasn't that cool live. Some of course hit big time. I don't know. Like, I think generally speaking, if you want to do something, you probably got to be innovative with it.
Fair play. AVRL, we're coming back to you. I don't even know if there's a fence to get off of with this. Are you buying NYXL's offseason tempo? Are you getting a little bit concerned at this point now that they haven't made any moves? I
think their tempo is perfect.
Okay.
Well, it's not perfect. Obviously, perfect would include some heavy hitters being signed, but I've said this on previous episodes, but I think a lot of teams either move too quickly or were forced to move too quickly, which is the same as moving too quickly.
Sure.
In that you haven't even seen the new game yet. I mean, NYXL, if they're doing this strategically, then biding their time to wait for more info or like, I don't know, wait to make a more informed decision, that's the right move to make, in my opinion. As long as you're missing out, as long as you're not missing out on too many heavy hitters that you previously wanted, it's chill. And I think as well, the other bonus for NYXL is they're not fighting for Western players because there's, generally speaking, less high quality Western players. Teams like the Mayhem, Albert's got a, he's got a kick into overdrive because he's fighting against multiple other teams for the same people.
Yeah.
NYXL, I mean, you got all these good players in Korea waiting to get picked up, waiting for a second chance. Xy's out there, Otto's out there. I've named all the list goes on, right? There's heaps of good Korean players. You can bide your time as much as you want. I think NYXL are going to do fine.
Fair play. Yiska, are you buying or selling?
I mean, I feel like it's functionally. Like, is it really that they're moving slowly, or is it that, like, they're just announcing slowly? I don't know. I feel like they've locked in their roster for the longest time already, and I don't know. I'm not scared for them.
Okay, we'll stay with you then.
If you have Yaki Flora as a baseline, I'm okay with the team.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard to go wrong from there,
Yep.
Anyway,
I think that's measured. Yiska, when it comes to main support, I know that there's been some pundits out there that have tried to get in front of the bullet for ye old Lucio players, but is main support undervalued when it comes to Overwatch 2? Get off the fence.
Oh, that's a hard one. I mean, the problem is, like, we haven't seen the game yet, and I'm also mildly surprised where that whole, like, more mechanical main support comes from.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, does the game necessarily have to mechanify? I think it's a good bet. I'm not sure if it's a... Let's say that. It's not always going to be a positive EV to underrate main supports, but as it looks right now with the facts that we have, it looks like an okay-ish bet. Let's be honest, the only main support hero that is probably really hard to adapt to for a flex support would be Lucio, because he's so unique in the type of movement he requires, the type of like timing, what you're doing in the game, and also the mechanics. I think Mercy is probably rather easy to pick up for flex support because they aren't just the more mechanical players. They also feel like they're also generally quite aware of positioning and timing. I think generally speaking, like the overall skill level of the flex support is generally higher than the main support. Yeah, I think okay. To get off the fence, I think the main support position has been overvalued quite a bit for the longest time. But I think that a lot of main supports this season had to show that they are capable of. And if I had a main support that was able to play a good break and play a good BAP, then I probably have confidence in them. Are you muted, Joe?
Yes, I am.
Right.
Stupid headphones. AVRL, to you. Main support, how do you feel?
I mean, I want to say we're not. I want to say, like, teams are right to hold off on main supports, but at the same time, we're all just speculating. Like, we actually don't know. No one actually knows what main support's position is going to be in their role in the new Overwatch game. We're all just speculating that, like, maybe main supports won't be that important. Maybe that won't be that integral to a team composition. And I think it's more. I will say this though, like, if it does, here's a risk reward you have to take. If it does go double flex support, you are gonna fall on your face way harder by having a team that can't play double flex support than you are if it goes flex support main support and you are forcing a flexible player into main support. That's my opinion. Simply because of the difficulty in the respective hero pools and what you need to output in those respective hero pools. Because, like Yiska said, outside of Lucio, you already have a lot of flex support players that have been on Brig. Mercy, I'm just gonna say it. Mercy's not that hard. Really isn't. Sorry, Mercy players. I mean, you know it too. Don't lie to yourselves. And What else is there? BAP is already, if that's a normal flex support hero. Most flex support, in fact, BAP has shifted from main support to flex support, to be honest with you. So you have two heroes that have been in the main support position that are pretty regularly played by flex supports already. It's just Lucio, right? I mean, what other main support is really hard to pick up? I can't think of one. Moira, that's a joke.
Yeah.
Moira is also, by the way, has been a flex support hero in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just Lucio. It's literally just Lucio. So yeah, if it's a Lucio meta, bad luck. But I think if you roll the dice, you play the numbers, the risk reward there leans heavily in my opinion towards double flex support than main support flex support. So if you have to take a gamble, I think you gamble on the double flex support. But if you can't afford to, you probably sign 3 support players, and one of them is a main support with a main support pool. Specifically, if you can get them to be a Lucio specialist as their main hero that they're very good at, then that you're going to cover some good bases there. But yeah, I think teams have made probably the right choices overall, speculatively. Again, you can't say that 100% just because we don't know what the new game will,
of course,
entail. And even then, how the meta is going to change, because you could have a situation where main support could be relevant in the first month and then not relevant 2 months later, or vice versa. Like anything could happen. So who knows?
Fair play. We'll stay with you for this next one. In the same realm or a similar realm to main supports, who often get some unwarranted criticism. AVRL, I'm asking you to get off the fence. It's time for you to be a human shield. Which player got way too much criticism or hate for little to no reason?
FD God by Shock fans.
Fair enough. Yeah, definitely.
I did that whole meme thing on my stream where I did an impression of the average Shock fan. To be fair, and in their defense, it was probably the bandwagon fans, because a lot of the Shock fans that would consider themselves like true Shock fans and long-term Shock fans, they get annoyed at the bandwagoners as well. The people that just join Shock because they just want to be fans of the best team.
Sure.
So that's fair enough. But yeah, I mean, I guess, it's got to be FD God or Nero. I'll just pick FD God because I just flip a coin. It's one of those two. Man, Shock fans tore into their own team and their own players like unreasonably hard. It's kind of ridiculous.
Agreed. Yiska, are you a cannibal? Are you eating the Shock?
I think FD God is probably the golden answer.
Okay.
I can't think of anyone else. Are there any other ones that pop to mind?
I stole Nero. You can take Nero if you want, but
yeah, Nero.
All the Shock players, just Shock et al. Really.
Yeah. No, it's hard. Like, because who was actually like really heavily criticized this season?
Like unjustifiably criticized, right? Or justifiably.
Like, for instance, like I'm thinking of players that were actually like maybe hit on, like OG. Hard to say that was undeserved, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who else got slagged?
Just to be clear, it doesn't have to be just this season. It could be
ever.
Fate? Is that just there's just doubters? Oh, I was just talking about this season.
I mean, if you want to, we can double back to you once Yiska kind of finishes up. But yeah, definitely just anybody who didn't get a fair shake, who you think got way too much hate or criticism.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard.
Anamo every single year, because everyone's worst complaint about him is that he's not a playmaker, which is like such a lightweight criticism when like other people have done way worse, like have played way worse and done way worse things on their teams, like throwing, for example, just being fucking awful. I don't know.
Fair play. Any Shanghai love for you, Yiska?
They don't criticize Anamo because he's bad. They criticize him because he's not bad and he's not good.
I think if we talk about all time, I have to give my cookie cutter opinion of Prophet in season 2. Like, when people tell me that this guy was still not like, I don't know where this idea came from that Prophet wasn't the best player on his team throughout the entire regular season, either in season 1 and season 2. These people are
Mhm.
high. Like, he was consistently the best player and one of the best players in the world, and he had to flex around 2 roles. So if we're
Sure.
talking all time, then it feels like Profit is probably a good shout for those two, because people always just say he's like this playoffs player. I think his
Mhm.
level is consistent. Everyone else just drops in playoffs because they drop spaghetti.
Fair enough. Yiska, will come to you with one of the last ones before we kind of
Mhm.
skedaddle. Yiska, I'm gonna ask you to get off the fence. If you're going for a minimum of 6 players in Overwatch 2, are you in the third DPS camp, or are you taking a second tank? Third DPS or second tank?
Ooh.
6 minimum. You're the GM. You have a tight budget. You can only get 6 players.
Oh, dude, it is really hard.
Yeah. Oh boy.
I say DPS.
Okay.
Here's the
Any
reason.
particular reason why? Okay.
I think I can find a quality flex tank that is probably mad skilled that
Mhm.
also will be able to hold a shield and like play
Okay.
Reinhardt in an aggressive way. I'm looking in particular like I don't know, like I feel like off tank is just way deeper.
Mhm.
I think they usually probably already have a pretty good Winston. Ball is hard. It will definitely, like, the hero pool length will probably be pretty heavy. I don't think we will even play most of them. I think you kind of want a consistent main tank, as has been like proven to be beneficial over the last couple of seasons.
Mhm.
Other than Smurf and Super sort of like being outside that role. I think like DPS will be so important. It's hard. And now, like, once again, I'm on OG, where I'm like, oh my god, imagine like having a tank that absolutely doesn't work. What are you doing? Like, now you put in the DPS player on the tank role? Hoof. Yeah, I don't know, dude. Yeah, no, I'm sticking to DPS. I think DPS will be way more important in Overwatch 2.
Okay. We got 1 vote for DPS. AVRL. GM
Yep.
Fantasy League.
Make it 2 votes. GM Avril signing on again and putting my GM
Fair
hat
enough.
and pretend to be GM once again. I take 3 DPS players 100% of the time. Yeah, because like, yeah, I get it. The OG situation sounds pretty bad, but I mean, first of all, ideally you're picking a good enough player that you don't get into that position, but also you're taking a risk on. So, I mean, people will use that example, but
Mhm.
if you're doing that, then you're also taking a risk on your 2 DPS and your 2 supports, and in either scenario, you're taking the risk on your 2 supports anyway. Like, either one of your players could shit the bed. It could be your tank player, could be one of your DPS players, could be both your DPS players, could be one of your supports, could be both your supports, could be anybody. So I don't think you can live in that world of fear where it's like, oh man, I don't want an OG situation. It's like, okay, well, you might not hear curl that monkey's paw. You might not get the OG situation now, but have fun having a DPS that's just shitting the bed, and now you only got 1 DPS and the other one can't do anything. That can happen to literally any position, any player. So I can't build a team with that fear crippling me. It just you can't do that. So DPS is by far, I think, has always been and will continue to be the most important role in the game. You got to shoot people. You got to click heads. You got to be mechanically skilled. It's the most demanding role in the game, for good reason, and also the most demanding role not just for mechanics but for also hero pools. Very demanding for hero pools. So much so that you need flexibility in the DPS position because it's too much to ask for 2 people to cover the entire DPS hero pool because there are way more DPS heroes than heroes in any other position. So, yeah, I think 3 is a good shout for sure. And it's just different aiming styles as well. Like, you have to be considerate of double hit scan, double projectile, anything in between. Like, it's so different. And okay, and what about tanks then? So one
Right.
tank, how's that going to work? yeah, I think you got to get a heavy hitter main tank. I would put a lot of budget into main tank, potentially just to get one, like you said, one very solid flex tank, like space on gladiators, for example, and bank all my stocks on that one guy popping off on tank, or at least being good enough that they won't throw. As long as they're not going to throw, we'll be okay, and have DPS carry if required. You just I think eventually you just want one tank in your team anyway. Like, tank is one of those positions that's so integral to a team that, like, and I just by saying that, I can already hear people saying, like, well, if you think it's integral to the team, why would you only have one? It's like, well, I mean, integral in the way that, like, you don't want to be benching and subbing in tanks and swapping in tanks for the most part. You want to just have one solid tank. Like, I don't really believe in swapping in and out tanks. Teams didn't do that. If you look at teams even this year, you had a starting lineup for tanks. You basically never swap them. I'm not going to, you'll say that Shock was the exception there, where they did stuff with Smurf as well, and they moved around their tanks. Like, all right, well, I'll give that to them. Maybe Krusty knows what he's doing, and maybe they'll do that. But other teams, you want a solid tank line. You don't want to touch that shit, and you just want that to carry you through as best you can. And you don't want to be swapping in. And even teams like Boston, who, by the way, fun fact, had 4 tanks on their team. Eventually, they settled on stand 1 Punk, and they never touched Gableshi. Sadly, never played Fusions either, and they just stuck to their guns, because you need the consistency in the tank line that determines a lot of how you want to play. Yeah. So I think having 2 tanks where, I don't think you want to be swapping them in and out anyway. One of them will be permabenched, whereas for 3 DPSs, a lot of teams did swap in DPSs quite often. Yeah, you did have a lot of map-specific DPSs, meta-specific DPSs. They did swap in and out. I think it's far easier to play around the limitations you have on tanks and being like, okay, well, maybe we're not going to do as many Ryan comps, and we're going to stick to dive comps here because, we have one tank and he's not the best on Ryan. We're going to stick to all these other situations. We can make that work.
So you're going kind of like a rush approach?
I was going to say more like a gladiators approach, because there was the rumors about Muse not being great on Ryan, right, which is why it dictated so much of their dive gameplay, which they ended up being really good at dive anyway. And lo and behold, the dive was really good because Space's Diva is fantastic, and but beyond that as well, their DPS is fucking nailed. Their DPS was so good at dive. But my point is, it's easier to play around the limitations of only having one tank than the limitations of having only 2 DPSs that can't carry, they can't cover enough heroes in the very, very extensive DPS hero pool.
Okay.
Let's be honest.
Yiska?
Like the real answer is you bag groceries at like Whole Foods in order to afford a 7th player. That's probably like the preferable situation where you, like, if you can help
ideally
it.
You have if you can help it, Yiska, you get 8 players and you have a main support, 2 flex supports, an off tank, a main tank, and 3 DPSs. If you can help it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, I'm just saying, like, you don't want to be in the position where you only get to recruit 6. That would actually really suck. But Joe, like,
bro,
yeah, go on.
The smartest thing to do is do what Valiant doing, and this is why, like, when I play, I was going to mention this as well when we were doing this, but like when I'm pretending I'm GM, I'm actually pretending I'm Valiant's GM just for a bit of challenge. I like a bit of challenge. And specifically, No Hill's not the GM, but I'm pretending, but he has roster control, so I'm pretending I'm the GM with roster control, so I'm No Hill. And how do I build a team? Because you are on a budget, you probably will only go for 16 players, even though Valiant at this stage probably will go for 7 because they've signed on Becky, and I think that means they're going to have 3 DPSs because they've rumored to get innovation as well. But they have actually done the Jake thing where they've signed Wukiel onto a player salary, a player position officially, like a league player position contractually, but he's going to be an assistant coach for the team, and that's a win in my books in terms of being smart with your budget, because you probably are, like I just said, you don't want to be subbing in and out tanks. You want to just be playing one tank the entire way through the whole season if you can help it, which means the other guy's going to be perma bench, and instead of letting they go rot on the bench, you set the expectation earlier that actually he's going to be there as an assistant coach. But then you also have the safety net that if it goes heavily into flex tank meta and you need a diva player or something, well, Wuhiel, it's your job to step up now. You got signed on a player contract. You may have to play. Boom, there it is, done. So super smart way of going about it.
All right. Last but not least,
Joe, real quick.
Yes.
I gotta, like, if you ask an unfair question that's impossible to answer correctly and will get clipped out of context eventually where we look like idiots, please commit. Get off the fence.
Yeah, I'm going DPS very similar to you guys. I think that, again, I'm going to echo a lot of the things that I've said on shows previous. This is a game going into Overwatch 2 that looks very DPS centric. To AVRL's point, I think that, I think you can force a lot of, and maybe this is me being slightly biased to what we know from Overwatch 1, but I think you can force a style that lends itself to being a little bit shallow at main tank or the tank position in general.
Yeah.
You can't really do that with DPS all that much. So yeah, I would definitely put my money in DPS. Yeah. AVRL, last one coming in hot. Which I may need to butt in and give some examples for, but this one may be a bit of a stretch. I'm gonna ask you, get off the fence. What was the most head-scratching trade made during the history of Overwatch? Which trade for a player, no cast consideration, was the most bizarre to you? I have some examples if you need a bit of inspiration.
Who was Smurf traded for again?
Oh, that's a
GG. He came from GGEA, right?
Dante, no?
Okay, that's not a head scratcher. That's actually a pretty good trade for both teams. Never mind. Who was RCK traded for?
Note. That was a Boston-Dallas trade.
I think that was actually a pretty good trade as well. Fuck. Shit.
There weren't that many trades, right?
Not a ton, but there are some head scratchers. Custa Unco during season 1. Just a little inspiration.
Taro Cookie and whoever he replaced.
Sure.
No, hang on. Ah, fuck. But it is really hard. I can't remember all of them as well. Custa Unco, I mean, that was great for Valiant though. That's not even a head scratch. Like, what is a head scratcher? Does it have to be bad for both teams?
Could just be bad for one.
Yeah, it could just be bad for one. Just really bizarre, you know, in your point of view, is just a subjective take on like, wow, why would you want to make a play for that player? Why would you want to give up this player, or vice versa?
And it has to be like a one player goes to another team or one player comes to your team kind of
ideally
trade.
If not
trade, right?
Yeah, a two-way trade would be preferred, let's say.
There's been, see, the sad thing is there's been hardly any two-way trades, hardly any two-way trades, and I don't remember much of them at all.
I see that our producer Eric is mentioning, and I'm gonna ask for a piece of, not evidence because I just don't remember it. Bishu and Fraggy for Kib. That does not ring too many bells, but I'm gonna double check that because
I know Bishu and Fraggy did go to charge, and they were not used at all.
Yes.
So I don't know about that. It's a little bit of a weird one.
Check the Wikipedia. Sure.
Wish there was a list on me, a list of all play trades ever. No.
Yiska, do you have one? You have one that
I'm debating if I should drop one that didn't happen.
Ooh. I mean, how far gone is it, right? I mean, is it past the...
Here we go. Hey, Yiska was talking about clippable moments, so here we go. This is the one.
Yeah, right.
I'm not 100% if that actually is the thing, and now... am I opening myself up to just getting fucking ravaged by, like, internals of people saying that actually was never a thing, even though at least one that would know has told me as much? Come on. It's far gone. So apparently...
Here we go.
At one point, the trade Violet and Rascal for Kareev was on the table. And that didn't happen.
What year was this?
This was 2020, I think. Very early into 2020.
Last year. Season 3.
I think so.
Violet Rascal going into 2020, right? Just so that we're clear.
So Violet Rascal
and I will
would have
say,
been
like,
on.
oh, shit, I should have said this earlier because it's going to be clipped out of context, but I don't know for sure. But hypothetically, if that was a thing, it was Pepage on the shock offering that, and on Toronto not accepting that, right?
Yes.
So, by the way, this is what it takes. I just had my big Reddit rant. This is what it takes to get anyone to talk about our podcast and r/competitive Overwatch. This is what it takes. So I read it. Wow,
That is a
that's
hot
wild.
one.
That's wild as fuck. Sounds like a win for Toronto. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, Creve had good stocks going into season 3. He came off of Valiant, did well.
That he did.
He had decent stocks, man. Like I can see the reasoning. I can fully see the reasoning.
But for Rascal and Violet, though?
Yeah.
2 for 1? I don't know.
Also, you were saying, like, you know, it was like, oh, it was just a long time ago. It's like, yeah. I was like, oh, it must be like season 1. Like, no, bro, this is season 3. Holy shit, this just happened. Like, oh, fucking man. Dude. Wow. That was recent as fuck.
Yeah.
No love for the old 3-way trade?
Which was
Anybody
the 3-way trade?
that one? Way back when with Rogue, Luminosity, and Misfits doing the whole shuffle to assemble the French team. No love there.
Wait.
That's pre-Overwatch League, isn't it?
Yeah, the history of Overwatch. Just looking at Overwatch 1 as a whole.
You mean
I don't even remember.
Oh, the Rogue with Misfits type of thing?
Rogue, Luminosity, and Misfits. Yeah, everybody shuffling around, and Manitens goes one way, the French team gets assembled, Tvik goes to Misfits. Yeah, the whole ordeal.
I think it worked out for both of them in the event, right? No? They both won tournaments after that. Like,
yeah,
I think it was decent enough.
Okay. Fair play. AVRL, any final thoughts?
I'm gonna give you a pass. I just legitimately don't know. Remember,
there wasn't too many.
I can't think of any at all.
You can't blame you there. But if any of you lovely viewers are interested, we are going to open up this segment to our $25 patron tiers, or our Grandmaster and Producer tier. If you would like, you can either send us a message via Discord or leave it in the Crouchers Only Discord chat for our Patreon members. Leave those questions there. I'll collect them all, and we can grill these guys for all that they're worth.
We'll give you a shout out as well. We'll be
exactly.
Double. We'll let you know who asked what question.
Exactly.
Give you a nice shout out.
And if you are interested in doing that, you can head on over to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. And you can support us there. Any and all would be appreciated. So yeah, I think they sufficiently got off the fence. Back to you, AVRL.
I'm technically still on the fence about player trades, just because I can't give you an answer.
I mean, come on, there wasn't too many, right? Like there wasn't a lot. And yeah, it was just fun to go back down memory lane.
I leave that one on like, bro, I just don't know. I legitimately don't know. But man, cool. I mean, did we hit the 3-hour mark yet officially?
We're damn close.
Damn close, yeah.
We are damn close.
You guys just want to chill for another 7.5 minutes?
Just to get past the 3 hours?
Nah. We're just gonna chill for a little bit longer and just like.
Yes, he's got a hot date with a shitty movie. I'm sure he needs to go see.
Yeah,
so.
pretty.
I figured out we figured out what we needed to do to get a 3-hour episode. We came in. I want you to know. I want everyone else to know as well that this half of the podcast today was just unscripted. Half of it was like, yeah, we could talk about this stuff, and the other half was completely unscripted. So what you got to do is you just have to have like one real hardcore passion topic to rant about for a long ass time, and that's how we're going to fill time for the entire. Now just do that for 6 months, really.
And sometimes you don't.
6 months.
And sometimes you don't know it until you start talking about it, and you're like, you know what? I do have a bone to pick with this X, topic that we really didn't have the brain to think about.
I got a lot of bones to pick. The struggle I have daily is
which bones not to pick.
When, how, and if I even should pick fights. Right? People might think Like, oh man, like I'm someone that likes to pick fights all the time. I actually don't. The amount of times I hold back is unbelievable. I hold back so much. I hold back an unbelievable amount. I gave a tiny preview of like what it looks like when I don't hold back, but it takes a lot to get there. Because like I don't know, I'm also the type of personality where I'm like, it's not worth it.
Yeah,
it's not worth getting into a fight about that. It's not worth arguing about that kind of BS. So, yeah, I mean, good show, good 3 hours. We're gonna rewind back now, and you remember the intro? I said like, this is going to be a short episode, and then you're going to have a laugh when I say that. You're going to look down at the time track and look how long the episode is. It's like, yeah, he said short, and then it's like 3 hours. So we're there. You know, you see how self-aware I am about that kind of stuff. So I understand. I knew this was going to happen. So
yeah, there we have it. Hope you're all prepared for 6 months of this.
I'd be surprised if we could do this every week. I'd be surprised if we could do
this is easy.
Every single
challenge
time.
accepted.
We could definitely do this.
So apparently, I think next week is it is the Christmas special, isn't it? 23rd it will be for me, or 22nd, 23rd. It will be. So when you tune in next week, it'll be Christmas time. I set it up early, you know. I'll just repeat this. I'll just save this background for next time as well, because why not? And I don't know. Once again, I'll have no idea what we're going to even talk about until we get there, because, well, really, it depends on what news happens in the meantime. But I can't imagine too much is going to happen between now and next week as we hit closer to Christmas. Like, if anything, now is going to slow down more than anything.
So, yeah.
And then 207, the post-Christmas episode, the pre-news episode, my God, like that one's going to be dry as well, because I'm like, Jesus Christ, what's going to happen there? Like, dry in the sense that, like, I just don't think any news is going to be there. So I'm gonna get riled up. I'm gonna spend every single week getting real riled up about something, because that's how I'm gonna stretch the 3 hours. So
there we go.
Yeah. Cool.
Nice.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining in. Thank you for another 3 hours of 205 for Yiska's sanity. We're going to end this before we actually hit the 3 hour mark, but we nearly made it there, and we'll see you all for 206, the Christmas special, which I don't even know what is going to be special about it, but it's going to be special. We'll see you then.
Bye.